Under the gray sky of the 5th year of the apocalypse, the desolate scene appeared like a ruined painting. Inside the severely tilted building, shattered wall fragments exposed the destruction. A few groups of people gathered silently, their eyes full of caution. A middle-aged man, gaunt-faced with graying hair and beard, was Vuong Kyo's father. He stepped forward, eyes heavy with sorrow, softly said to him, "You have been chosen as the Forsaken this time." Vuong Kyo was stunned, eyes wide, voice trembling. "What did you say, Dad?" Anger flared like fire. He rushed forward, grabbed his father's collar tightly, grinding his teeth, shouting, "What do you want to do? You discarded them all based on the lottery." Before his father could answer, a cold voice cut in, stopping him from the shadows. A tall, middle-aged man stepped out, imposing in a luxurious fur cloak. A long scar running from his eyebrow down to his right eye made his face even more terrifying. Following him was an arrogant man, and beside him a beautiful woman clinging tightly to his arm. "Ah, I see, Vuong Kyo," he sneered. "You're just a consumptive ghost. You can't even pick up trash properly. Isn't raising her just a waste of resources?" Vuong Kyo tightened his sword handle. Eyebrows furrowed his cold gaze, warning the middle-aged man, hands in his pockets, stepping forward confidently without his sword, voice low and challenging. "How dare you, just a bully, want to make a move on me?" The air seemed to freeze. Vuong Kyo stood silently, eyes blazing with anger but unable to speak. The crowd only dared to stand far away, their cold eyes isolating him. Before leaving, the middle-aged man was grabbed by Vuong Kyo, whose voice trembled with pain as he said, "Tell me where you abandoned her." He replied without hesitation, "Behind the mountain." Without waiting, Vuong Kyo rushed off, leaving the mocking group behind. Alone, he walked along the mountain trail, hoarsely shouting, "Sister, I know you're nearby. Please come out." From a nearby bush, Vuong Huan, his sister, covered her mouth to stifle her sobs. She whispered in pain, "Sorry, little brother. I don't want to be a burden to you anymore." Suddenly, she noticed a figure in front of her and, startled, looked up. She recognized Vuong Kyo standing there with arms wide open, a radiant smile dispelling the darkness. "Sis, have you forgotten since childhood I've been the best at hide-and-seek?" A tear rolled down Vuong Huan's cheek. Joy from reuniting with her brother was cut short by a terrifying roar ripping through the air. A high-level mimic creature, a giant with a terrifying aura, suddenly charged at the two siblings. In panic, Vuong Huan pushed Vuong Kyo aside, shouting, "Watch out!" She shielded the full force of the fatal blow with her body instead of him. Vuong Huan fell, eyes tightly shut, motionless on the ground. Vuong Kyo trembled with heart-wrenching pain, tears streaming endlessly. He screamed in despair. A raging fury swallowed the pain, making him grit his teeth and charge at the mimic. The sword in his hand swung up, but somehow the blade shattered in the life-and-death moment. Vuong Kyo collapsed beside a tree, helpless as the high-level mimic stood there, chewing on fresh red flesh, its empty eyes staring at him. A regretful voice echoed in Vuong Kyo's mind. "Regret it's all my fault for leaving it too late to bond with the system. I really am useless." Suddenly, another voice pulled him out of the nightmare. "Old Vuong, wake up, the homeroom teacher is calling you." Vuong Kyo jolted awake, sweat beading on his forehead, eyes dazed as he looked around. He was in a classroom, a strangely familiar scene. The homeroom teacher sternly reminded Vuong Kyo, "Stop zoning out, pay attention." He turned in shock to see Tian-Duc Luong, his deskmate. Wasn't he dead in the early days of the apocalypse? A thought flashed in Vuong Kyo's mind, making him realize something shocking. The homeroom teacher continued gravely, "This special zone quota is extremely precious this time. Only those awakened under 30 years old can secure a spot in the special zone. Don't underestimate this quota. It's very valuable." Vuong Kyo pondered, heart-pounding. "Isn't that special zone the refuge after the apocalypse? I really have gone back 15 years. A thought flashed. He whispered, "System." Immediately, a bright screen appeared before his eyes, displaying a multiploidy reaction information board, completely overriding the current number binding system. "No summoner, quickly start the binding." Wang Chao let out a slight sigh of relief. The system was still there. The story opens with Wang Chao's narration, his voice deep and haunting. "In my previous life, I didn't have the ability to bring my family into the refuge. Mom ultimately died among the waves of bodies that my sister also..." His image appeared cold-faced, fists clenched tightly, smashing the glass that reflected the painful memories of his past life. His eyes burned with determination. "This time I will definitely get that quota." The painful memories swirled like a cyclone, pulling Wang Chao back to the early days of the apocalypse. That cruel and ruthless leader of the henchmen, Jiang Kun, mercilessly oppressed the two sisters to survive. Wang Chao and his sister were forced to bow before him. The images of countless innocent people being slaughtered appeared clearly like a knife cutting into the heart. But Zhang Kun, with his brutal and selfish nature, showed no mercy, treating them like slaves to be commanded without any humanity. Then one day a girl with golden hair tucked behind one ear appeared. That was the first time Wang Chao witnessed the terrifying power of those awakened. A scream echoed, accompanied by an explosion that shook the earth and sky. That time it was Wang Chao's turn to save her and bring her back to reality. In the fading sunlight, the skyscraper of the Kun Credit Company appeared cold and desolate. A painful scream echoed along with the sharp sound of an iron bar piercing through a hand pinned firmly onto the table. Jiang Kun stood behind, blocking the furious Zhao Anvian, his voice sinister. "Little girl, you're really hot-tempered." He stood up, his scheming eyes looking at her slowly, warning, "Don't get angry. If you want to blame someone, blame that useless old man of yours. He would rather jump off a building than pay the debt. Your mother ran so fast only to leave you to sell yourself to pay your father's debt." Then, without hesitation, he kicked Zhao Anvien's stomach, causing her to cry out in pain and collapse to the floor. He coldly continued, "So if you behave obediently, you might suffer a little less." Not stopping there, Jiang Kun pressed his foot hard on her face, his eyes merciless. Despite that, Zhao Anvian gritted her teeth and screamed, "In your dreams! You guys want him. Why don't you go down there and get him?" Suddenly, a loud noise rang out. The door was kicked open. Wang Chao stepped in, his eyes blazing like fire, the baseball bat in his hand spinning once ready. Jiang Kun's momentary anger turned cautious as he shouted, "Who the hell are you? Who let you in here?" Wang Chao smirked coldly and replied, "You're asking who I am." He swung the bat, pointing straight at Jiang Kun's face, declaring clearly, "I am superhero." Jiang Kun burst out laughing with contempt, ordering, "Get those mad dogs of yours to chase him out for me." His fierce henchmen charged, but in the blink of an eye, Wang Chao's bat struck down one with a hit to the face that sent a tooth flying out. The others were no exception. The bat swung, leaving painful groans behind. Finished, Wang Chao's henchmen closed in on Jiang Kun's hands, tightening around his neck, turning his face purple. Jiang Kun, pressed against the window, trembling, asked, You who exactly are you?" Wang Chao's hand still gripping tightly, eyes sharp with the corner of his lips slightly curling. "We're enemies, but in the future." Jiang Kun panicked, mouth agape like a child, stammering, "Huh? What future?" He struggled, voice sobbing, "Who are you really?" But before he could understand, a final strike from Wang Chao knocked him out, ending all his painful protests. Jiang Kun collapsed beside his henchman body, trembling in pain. Wang Chao hurried to Zhao Anvien's side, gently helping her up, his voice warm and deep. "Are you okay?" "Hello, Zhao Anvien." Her eyes still hazy, looking at him hesitatingly, asked, "Are you Wang Chao?" Smiling, he didn't answer immediately but stood straight, holding the baseball bat, and glanced toward Jiang Kun, who was staggering to his feet. He leisurely said, "Wait a moment, almost forgot." "Yes." His gentle but cold words made Jiang Kun startled and retreat quickly, stammering, "What else do you want?" Wang Chao, bat slung across his shoulders, the other hand in his pocket, asked calmly, "Where's the IOU?" Jiang Kun panicked, voice trembling. "What IOU?" "I don't know." But faced with Wang Chao's threatening gaze, he paled and pointed to a corner, mumbling, It's on the table." Wang Chao stepped forward, took the IOU paper on the table, but his eyes suddenly stopped at the shiny sword lying next to it. Yes, instinctively he picked it up, feeling the cold energy emanating from the blade. Turning back, he handed the paper to Trio Anvien with a firm voice. "Now you no longer owe anyone." Trio Anvien gripped the paper tightly, her hands trembling, then tore it in half with a voice full of resentment. "It was never me who owed anything." At the same time, a system notification appeared before Vung Q. "Binding opportunity has been achieved. Bound with Trio Anvien." The system hinted that Trio Anvien has not yet awakened and temporarily cannot obtain abilities. He furrowed his brows slightly, thinking, "Looks like I need to give her one more spark to awaken her powers. It's time for revenge." He handed the sword he just picked up to Trio Anvien, his gaze cold and sharp. "What do you plan to do?" Trio Anvien widened her eyes at him and suddenly raised her hand toward the light falling raindrops. He looked up in surprise and exclaimed, "The black rain is starting." Just then, the system displayed another notification, "Welcome to the apocalypse." The next piece of information stunned Vuong Q. Trio Anvien has awakened an A-level ability. Metal Manipulation Ability. He couldn't help but exclaim, "Sure enough, she is an A-level power user." Vuong Q sat cross-legged as memories of past battles flooded his mind. The system clearly displayed powers ranked by energy level from low to high, EDCBASSSSS. Strategic levels from low to high, Violent Crimson Volcanic Tsunami, Natural Disaster Void. Abilities are divided into 6 major sensory zones. From S level and above, usually a combination of 2 sensory zones. Strategic rank is assessed based on the destructive power created by the awakened individual. In theory, if cultivated properly, a Void-level Awakener with an E-level ability can defeat a Natural Disaster-level enemy with an A-level power. Suddenly, the system displayed an additional notification: a multiplied reward has arrived in the mailbox. Accept it now. Without hesitation, Vuong Q pressed the selection button, his eyes burning with determination. Vuong Q was startled, his gaze fixed on the sharp blade in his hand. Memories from his previous life surged like a violent wave. In my past life, I only bound a D-level ability because that ability was too useless. In the end, I barely met the destructive power standard of the violent level, but the S-level ability really is powerful. He smiled slightly, feeling the newly awakened energy in his body nearly reaching the peak of the violent level. Suddenly, a voice sounded behind him. Trio Anvien stepped forward holding a similar blade, her eyes curious. "Why do you have an ability just like mine?" Vuong Q turned slowly and approached her, a bright smile on his lips. "Because we are the same kind of people." Trio Anvien was stunned, her eyes full of amazement. He chuckled silently and mumbled to himself, "Of course, because binding you will earn a multiplied ability reward, but how could I tell her that?" The 3 of them, Vuong Q, Trio Anvien, and the guy accompanying them, entered the school's registration area. In Vuong Q's mind, thoughts swirled. A spot on the special zone registration list was almost within reach. The guard standing there assessed them and said invitingly, "Both of you have high-level abilities with limitless prospects. Joining the military is the best choice for you." "Yes," Vuong Q replied politely. "I will think it over carefully." But inside, he had other plans, joining the military. Now he still wanted to take advantage of the early days of the apocalypse to bind more powerful individuals. There would be no other chance. The guy accompanying them sighed as he walked. "Black Rain, this world is getting weirder and weirder." "Right, the special zone quota is very precious. How to arrange it exactly, you two have to negotiate carefully with your family when you return." Trio Anvien suddenly smiled meaningfully at Vuong Q. "I'm giving you my special zone quota." The guy was stunned and awkwardly said, "Hey, did you hear what I said? This quota is really precious. No matter what, you can't buy it for 10 billion. But she just shrugged calmly and asked back, "Do you want it?" Vuong Q laughed loudly and joined her. "I want it." The guy could only hold his head and lament, "Why do those two make me feel like the special zone quota is just trash?" Suddenly a scream tore through the air. A man was running for his life, chased by a zombie screaming for help. Trio Anvien was stunned watching the scene. Vuong Q pointed ahead urgently. "There, someone's been bitten on the road. Are those people crazy?" The guy immediately pulled out his gun and threatened, "Hey, don't touch that man, he's about to be bitten." His voice thundered angrily, "If you move, I'll shoot." The zombie growled, turned to look at them, then suddenly lunged forward. Vuong Q shouted loudly, "Shoot!" But in the blink of an eye, the zombie attacked the guy, throwing the whole group into chaos. "What's going on, rabies, or what?" Vuong Q growled. His strong hand snapped an iron fence bar with practiced ease. He spun the iron bar into a deadly weapon and lunged straight at the zombie die. The iron bar pierced the enemy, causing it to collapse instantly. Watching the zombies fall, he sighed deeply, his eyes heavy. The Black Rain hasn't even finished falling, and zombies have already appeared earlier than I thought. Suddenly, the phone in his pocket vibrated. Vuong Q quickly answered. "Hello, Mom, listen to me. It's very dangerous outside now. Absolutely don't go out." But what Mrs. Vuong replied hit him like a lightning strike. "What you're saying, your sister has been taken away." The sword in Vuong Q's hand, filled with anger, stabbed straight through the zombies before him. He collapsed his mind in chaos. "In my past life, my sister was never taken. Could this be the butterfly effect?" He stood up abruptly, clenching his fists, his eyes blazing. "No matter what, I won't let anything happen to my sister." He raised his hand and shouted as countless sharp stakes rose from the ground, piercing through the zombies and tearing them apart in an instant. Trio Anvien stood beside him, eyes wide with amazement. "So strong. We have the same ability, but you wield it several times stronger than me." The two strode boldly through the battlefield filled with sharp stakes under the relentless black rain, heading toward Vuong's mother's house. Vuong Qiu pushed open the door, his voice joyful. "Mom." Mrs. Vuong turned around and saw him with a strange girl smiling softly to greet them. "Ah Qiu." He rushed forward and hugged his mother tightly, his voice firm. "It's okay now. Leave it to me. I'll bring your sister back." Mrs. Vuong's eyes were wet as she looked at him full of hope. He asked in a low voice, "Mom, did they leave any message?" Trembling, Mrs. Vuong recalled the fierce faces of those people and said, "They told me to come to Kan Nguyen Tower, or they would kill your sister Ah Qiu." "Who exactly are they?" Vuong Qiu frowned upon hearing the name Kan Nguyen Tower. Triwang Vian stood by the door, brushing back her hair, explaining, "That's the property of Tuong Khan." He knitted his brows, pressing, "What's Tuong Khan's relation to Tuong Khon?" She replied calmly, "He's Tuong Khon's half-brother." Vuong Qiu clenched his fists, anger flaring. "Damn it, in my past life I never even met Tuong Khan. Could he have died in the early days of the apocalypse?" He held his mother's hand, comforting her. "Mom, it's very dangerous outside. Now pack your things. I'll take you to a shelter first." Mrs. Vuong was worried, but before she could say more, he cut in reassuringly. "Don't worry, I will definitely bring your sister back." Watching his mother pack her suitcase, Vuong Qiu fell into deep thought, blaming himself. "It's all because I relied too much on information from my past life." Vuong Qiu frowned. "I'm lucky to be alive, but have I already forgotten the apocalypse's cruelty?" His eyes blazed with determination, ready to face any challenge ahead. Vuong Qiu bent down to help his mother pack silently, promising, "To protect my family from now on, I'll have to be much more careful." He placed his hand on Trio An Vien's shoulder, turning her around with a serious look. "What do you know about Tuong Khan?" Trio An Vien furrowed her brow slightly, her voice grave. "He's the man behind Kan Nguyen Tower, ruling this area with an iron fist. But all I know is he's Tuong Khon's older half-brother and far more ruthless." Outside the special zone, a gigantic fortress rose, imposingly thick, towering walls, reinforced with advanced multifunctional guns giving off an aura of invincibility. Vuong Qiu led his mother to the special zone gate, gently instructing, "Mom, go inside." "Yes, I still have one special zone quota. After rescuing your sister, I will bring her here to reunite with you." Mrs. Vuong, eyes full of worry, held his hand. "Ah Qiu, you have to be careful." He nodded firmly. "Don't worry, your child is now an awakened one too. I'm going first." He waved warmly. "Mom, go inside quickly. Don't get caught in the rain." Mrs. Vuong walked away, turning back to look at him for a long time with a lingering gaze. The black rain grew heavier. The special zone gate slammed shut, echoing like a farewell. Vuong Qiu and Triu An Vien stood outside, watching their mother's figure gradually disappear behind the sturdy gate. The two walked on a street littered with dead bodies and debris. Triu An Vien spoke with suspicion. "This black rain and those crazy people, what exactly is going on?" Wang Chao shook his head, his eyes darkening. "I don't know either." Suddenly, a zombie staggered to its feet, its cloudy eyes staring straight at him. He curled his lips coldly. Maybe hell is already full. The sword in his hand shot forward, piercing the zombie, and then retracting in the blink of an eye. Seeing the chaos around him, he sighed. It seemed today was not going to be so simple. Suddenly, a thunderous explosion sounded from afar. A figure engulfed in blazing red flames appeared, coughing fiercely, but still exuding overwhelming presence. Wang Chao froze, murmuring, "It's her, the Flame Queen, Luke Hua, top 10 apocalypse powerhouses." Memories from his past life flooded back. He clearly remembered Luke Hua burning the mutants' flames, blazing like a radiant flower on the battlefield that day. Beside him, a friend admired and exclaimed, "That's the Flame Queen Luke Hua herself." At that moment, Wang Chao naively asked, "Who is she?" His friend clapped him on the shoulder, glancing incredulously. "You don't know her. She's the disaster-level awakened one in the current base." Wang Chao was indifferent. Is she really that strong? His friend couldn't hold back, shaking his shoulder like a drum, utterly disbelief. "Such a famous person and you don't know her? She is the strongest elemental type awakened." The image of Luke Hua appeared in his mind, majestic and radiant. The flames surrounding her bloomed like a fierce flower on the line between life and death. She is the strongest elemental type awakened and undefeated symbol of the apocalypse era. Yes. Wang Chao frowned, a thought flashing in his mind. If I can bind Luke Hua, my power will multiply many times over. He tightened his grip on the blade, memories from his past life surfacing. Unfortunately, last time Luke Hua only passed by to supply. I had no chance to connect with her. This time the opportunity has come, I must not miss it. Without hesitation, he raised his blade, eyes blazing, shouting loudly toward Zhao Yingyuan. "Comrades, are you ready to fight in this new hell?" "Hello." Zhao Yingyuan stood stunned behind, mouth agape, bewildered. What? Before she could understand, the mutants chasing Lu Hua surged forward, attacking like starving dogs spotting a bone. Lu Hua's expression turned cold as she drew a circle of fire with her hand. The flames burst fiercely, incinerating the monsters amidst their agonized screams. But soon after she collapsed, breathing heavily. Burning so many targets was still too strenuous given the circumstances. Wang Chao rushed forward at a motorcycle-like speed. Lu Hua glanced briefly, surprised by his striking appearance, and asked, "Who are you?" Without answering, he swung his blade through a mutant. The blade hovered in the air, darting to tear apart the monsters' bodies. He stepped back, gripping the hilt tightly, launching the wind sandwater move, taking down another. A surviving mutant raised its claw to attack, but before it could touch him, a heavy object suddenly crushed it, its eyes bulging. Zhao Yingyuan stood there, sneering, pointing at the barrel she just threw, excited. "This is truly the world I should live in." Wang Chao shouted, "Time to harvest!" Yingyuan used magic to retrieve the metal plates in front and handed them to me. He swung his blade, each strike precise, destroying mutants in an instant. Zhao Yingyuan didn't fall behind, controlling sharp metal plates to pierce enemies. An explosion sounded. He sheathed his blade, wiped sweat, and breathed out, "Finally overkilling is exhausting." Zhao Yingyuan stomped hard on a mutant's head, coldly satisfied. Yeah. Lu Hua stood behind, eyes wide in astonishment. "These two are really strong, probably at peak violent level." Wang Chao twisted his wrist to turn back, concern in his eyes. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Lu Hua hurriedly waved her hand. "I'm fine." He stepped closer, extending his hand. "I'm Wang Chao." She shook his hand in return. Immediately, the system notification appeared. Bonding opportunity achieved. Bonding completed with Lu Hua rewards. Multiplied many times, you have obtained S-level awakened power. Naturally. Beside him, Zhao Yingyuan used blood to draw on the face of the mutant on the ground, laughing wickedly, he. Wang Chao looked at her lips curling slightly, thinking to himself, this girl is definitely extraordinary. Yes, Wang Chao stood behind, speechless, watching Zhao Yingyuan engrossed in doodling on the mutant's face. Suddenly, a bright symbol appeared on his hand. "Yeah," he murmured, turning to leave before Lu Hua's confused gaze. "Wait for me." He stepped up to a large store, feeling a surge of blazing red power flowing fiercely into both his hands. A satisfied smile appeared on his lips. "Got it." "Yes. Does the system now indicate if I have gained a power?" Vung Qiu pressed the yes button without hesitation. Immediately, a pile of objects fell down, from knives and hammers to cooking utensils, all shooting out simultaneously. He used spiritual energy to control them, to spin as he wished, then forged them into a mighty sword. Flames roared, enveloping two streams of power floating in the air, blending between Kong Kim and Don Nian to create a brilliant sword, the fire blazing as if to burn the entire sky. He put the sword into training, creating a new blade wrapped in bright flames, naming it True Fire Forged Metal. Vung Qiu cheered, eyes sparkling. "It's done. These two powers are truly a perfect combination. My current strength has probably reached the red level." He smiled silently, thinking, indeed, the first day of the apocalypse is my best development period. Putting away the sword, he transformed it into a silver bracelet worn on his wrist, then casually grabbed another box from the shelf, muttering, "I'll take this too. The black rain outside is still falling relentlessly." Trio Anvian was still absorbed in drawing all sorts of bizarre shapes on the mutant's face. Lu Hua curiously approached and asked, surprised, "What is she doing?" Seeing the strange drawings clearly, she was speechless and could only smile awkwardly. Trio Anvian proudly looked up and asked, "How do I draw?" Lu Hua stammered, trying to find words. "Wow, very, very artistic feeling." Under the black rain, Anvian was still absorbed in painting, ignoring the surroundings. At this moment, Lu Hua curiously asked again, "Where are you guys planning to go?" "It's very dangerous outside right now. Better to stay at home." Trio Anvian didn't bother to look up and replied casually, "Aren't you also outside?" "Also..." Lu Hua sighed and explained, "My comrades and I got separated." Anvian raised an eyebrow and recounted, "Sister Vung Qiu was kidnapped. We have to go rescue her." Lu Hua was startled and shouted, "What? How could something like that happen? Who kidnapped his sister?" Trio Anvian covered her ears and glanced at her irritably. "You're so annoying." The blunt words stunned Lu Hua, her heart breaking into pieces, only able to mutter, "Ah, forget it." Vung Qiu just returned urgently, saying, We have to go to the Kan Nguyen Tower. She came from that direction, knowing how things were over there. Lu Hua turned around, her face-darkened voice cautious. I'm not very clear about the situation at the Kan Nguyen Tower, but the streets there are currently flooded with crazed maniacs like those. Vung Q frowned and muttered, Has the situation gotten this bad already? Lu Hua's eyes flashed with determination and offered, I'll go with you guys. Vung Q looked her over for a moment and replied, Hey, Lu Hua. She interrupted, trying to persuade, Don't think I'm struggling just now. Actually, I'm very strong. Vung Q knew well the power of the Flame Queen Hua Diem and smiled in agreement. All right, then. I'll thank you on my sister's behalf. Lu Hua blushed and shook her head. No need for thanks. Yes, the group began to move. Vung Q asked her while walking, What exactly is our mission? Lu Hua was startled and flustered. Huh? Did I say that ha-ha no you misheard? Vung Q laughed softly, teasing, Ha-ha, maybe I really misheard. But deep down, he didn't believe the casual words, thinking she was hiding something. Triwang Vien stood beside them, glancing at him with a displeased look. Vung Q noticed she was angry and quickly took a box from her bag, holding it out in front of her. Hey, An Vien confused. He smiled teasingly. Using only red is too plain. Add some of these colors to make it richer. She blushed and remained silent. He continued, All right, we'll paint again later. We have to leave now. An Vien nodded shyly. Vung Q strode forward proudly, voice deep and resonant. Sis, I'm here to save you. Before them, the Kan Nguyen Tower stood massive and imposing like an impregnable fortress. Lu Hua sighed. This weird black rain has finally stopped. The maniacs on the street must have returned to normal. Vung Q nodded, but her eyes were heavy with worry. I don't know when the city will return to peace like before. I hope it's soon. He frowned, filled with concern. Those who just breathed a sigh of relief didn't realize that when the black rain ceased was the true beginning of the apocalypse's catalyst phase. Images of a series of monsters appeared in his mind. All kinds of grotesque forms from catalyst stage, newborn stage, matured stage, grown stage, extreme mutation stage, to true evolved stage. Human strength must also increase to cope with adversity, corresponding to battle levels. Violent level red, level mountain fire, level tsunami level, natural disaster level, and unsolvable level. Currently, it's only the early catalyst phase, but the death toll is already high. Vung Q clenched his fists tightly, silently vowed, I must quickly rescue my sister and get her to shelter before the situation worsens further. Yes. Vuong Q turned to the two, his voice deep and clear. Let's go, we're going inside. The three entered the Kan Nguyen building. The space inside was eerily silent, no shadows of ordinary people in sight, and the mutants carefully observed every corner, wary of traps. Vuong Q scanned around and suddenly spotted a barrier ahead. He furrowed his brow, took a running jump, and landed lightly like a breeze. Triwen Vien followed behind, checking meticulously with sharp eyes. Yes. Vuong Q put his hands in his pockets and walked to the elevator, then asked her, Do you know which floor Tuong Khan usually stays on? An Vien shook her head helplessly. I'm not sure, I don't know anything more. He sighed, pressed the elevator button to the 12th floor. No other choice we have to start from the top floor and search each floor one by one. As the elevator door opened, a crowd of mutants packed inside, their cloudy eyes staring at them. Vuong Q broke into a cold sweat, stepped back, mumbling, I'm done for. The mutants opened their mouths, revealing sharp teeth, and lunged as if to bite his head off. Swinging his arm, he summoned his weapon like lightning, attacking while shouting, Watch out, back off! Mutants surrounded him from all sides. Vuong Q stood in the center, gripping his fire-forged steel leg tightly, eyes cold as ice. He snorted coldly, swung his sword in a sharp arc, cutting off one mutant's head. I'll handle the front, you two block the rear. Triwang Vien nodded. Smirking confidently, assured, she raised her hand, launching sharp metal needles piercing the mutants' bodies. Go ahead, watch me wipe them out, she declared enthusiastically. Lu Hua beside her swung her arm, flames burst fiercely, burning the mutants until they twisted and screamed in agony. The two beautiful girls stood back to back, working in perfect harmony. Triwang Vien teased, Hey, Fire Tamer, your firepower seems a bit too much. Lu Hua turned with a smile and replied, You're not bad either. The scene before them was dazzling yet chaotic. Lu Kuo's flames burned the mutants into blackened charcoals, but they still crazily charged forward. Trio Anvien immediately summoned a large iron shield in front of her, muttering, "I'm done for. How can they still be so strong after being burned?" Lu Kuo continued to blast flames at one mutant, but the rest, surrounded by fire, still aggressively advanced. A loud explosion rang out. Lu Kuo's flames pierced through their bodies, accompanied by pitiful screams shaking the whole space. "Yes." Wang Qiu turned with a mischievous smile. "You two need to be careful." As he spoke, countless corpses lay scattered at his feet. The fire blazed fiercely, incinerating the zombies. Trio Anvien raised an eyebrow and laughed in response. "Hey, tell her she's all blackened and has no sense of violent aesthetics at all." She looked up to the sky, the power of fire and metal blending, as she swung her hand, releasing a stream of deep purple spiritual energy, carrying a terrifying aura. Lightning-fast slashes pierced the zombie bodies, causing them to scream in pain. Wang Qiu watched and silently compared in his mind. Lu Kuo had once been the fierce fire flame queen, but now still inexperienced in battle. In contrast, Trio Anvien, having just awakened, showed terrifying power, just like her previous incarnation, fierce and ruthless. Anvien was gleefully swinging her arms, each strike cutting the enemy in half, her mouth curled into a confident sneer. Suddenly, a strange roar echoed, and the ground shook violently. All three, Wang Qiu, Trio Anvien, and Lu Kuo, turned toward the sound, their eyes filled with fear. Lu Kuo stammered, "How can there be so many?" Ahead, a massive horde of zombies surged like the UN army dust clouds, billowing their momentum fierce. Wang Qiu quickly shouted, "You two get in the elevator first." He immediately activated his power. Two hexagonal metal blocks appeared behind Lu Kuo and Trio Anvien, emitting bright blue energy streams. He barked, "Activate powers," lifting the two girls and flying them toward the elevator. Wang Qiu stood alone to face the oncoming horde of zombies demanding his life. Calmly closing his eyes in an instant, his inner strength erupted, summoning a formidable force. The space around him flickered with blue and white sparks, a surge of energy racing straight into the monsters. The overwhelming power pierced through their bodies, causing the zombies to scream and shatter. The force was so strong, the earth and sky trembled, ignoring the roaring noise ahead, as if the whole world was being torn apart by his fury. Wang Chao swiftly dashed into the elevator and slammed the door shut. The three of them temporarily escaped danger, standing in the cramped space and breathing a sigh of relief after a series of challenges. Lu Huo couldn't help but complain, "What on earth is going on in this world? Why has the black rain stopped? And why are these madmen increasing more and more?" Her eyes flashed with a sharp chill, and her voice dropped completely different from previous expectations. She turned to Wang Chao and pressed, "Wang Chao, is this a trap set by Jiang Gan?" But he remained silent, his eyes tired and anxious as he replied, "More than whether this is a trap, I'm worried about where my sister and the others are, and if they're safe." Thousands of thoughts piled up inside him. In his previous life, Jiang Chun never appeared beside Jiang Kun. Could it be that he died right at this moment? No time to waste. Wang Chao activated his power, his hand glowing with brilliant blue light as he steadied himself. "We need to speed up," he shouted, activating the elevator's mechanism like a jet engine enveloped in a blue aura as it shot upward. Lu Hu, still unaccustomed, yelled in panic. "How is the elevator speeding up like this?" Upstairs, among a pile of undead corpses, the Thop groaned. A strange figure appeared, towering many times taller than the others. Its whole body was covered with spiky fur and had a long, sharp tail, clearly a mutated undead. The noise from the elevator caught its attention. Its bloodshot red eyes locked onto the rushing elevator inside. Zhao Yingyuan laughed with amusement at Lu Huo's naive, frightened expression. "Ha ha, this is exciting." "What was that sound? Was that your scream?" Lu Huo quickly explained with a trembling voice. "Of course not. I think I just heard something." But before she finished, the mutated undead smashed the elevator door and leapt in with terrifying strength. Lu Huo and Zhao Yingyuan shouted in surprise together. "What is that thing?" The cramped space shook as the three faced the terrifying monster, its overwhelming presence seeming ready to swallow them whole. Wang Chao squinted, a flicker of doubt in his eyes as he faced the towering mutated undead. Its body was engulfed in eerie blue flames that blinded the eyes. Its bloodshot eyes radiated malice, growling threateningly. Its gigantic form exuded oppressive energy with a fierce smile, as if it wanted to crush all three of them. Wang Chao was momentarily overwhelmed, silently wondering how this mutated undead appeared so early. Though still doubtful, he wasted no time swinging his hand to launch a dazzling spark that shattered the elevator door. "Get out of the elevator, it's too cramped in here," he shouted, stepping on debris and leaping out nimbly. "Hurry!" Lu Huo and Zhao Yingyuan nodded and immediately followed. In the blink of an eye, the three stood on a higher floor ready to fight. The mutated undead didn't hesitate. It jumped out of the elevator fiercely. Wang Chao quickly shouted, "Watch out!" Lu Huo took the lead, hands clenched into a blazing fireball full of vitality. "Leave this to me!" she yelled, throwing the fireball with all her might at the monster. The amber flames exploded, the heat scorching the space as if it could destroy everything, but amidst the fierce firestorm, the mutated undead survived. It raised its rough clawed hand straight at Lu Huo to attack. Fortunately, from afar, Wang Chao rushed like lightning, delivering a powerful kick, wrapped in bright electric flames directly to the monster's face. The tremendous force caused it to fall into the center of the raging firestorm. After the attack, Wang Chao turned with a worried look. "Are you okay?" Lu Huo panted, nodded, her eyes still determined, ready for the next battle. Lu Huo's eyes sparkled with gratitude as she responded to Wang Chao. "Yeah." Beside her, Zhao Yingyuan was full of vigor, eyes sharp, and a sinister smile as if demanding revenge. "Next undead, I'll take this one," she declared, focusing all her power into her palm, a swirl of deep purple energy rising with deadly intent. The surrounding broken stones vibrated, pulled together by unmatched force into a gigantic stone sphere floating in midair. Satisfied, Zhao Yingyuan swung her hand, hurling the sphere covered with countless spiritual energies straight down the elevator shaft. She stood with hands on hips, laughing with satisfaction. "Ha ha ha, this move is called the Happy Jump Machine." Wang Chao looked at her quirky personality helplessly and sighed. Lu Hua was at a loss for words, thinking this girl completely misunderstood the dance machine. At the same time, in another corner, Liam Qian Chao had just defeated a zombie clone when he suddenly heard a loud noise from afar. He frowned and muttered, "Huh, is there someone else in this place?" Step by step climbing the stairs, he looked at the pile of zombie clones scattered on the ground, full of suspicion. Why is the noise so loud? Didn't the leader tell us to act discreetly? Inside the elevator, Vuong Qiu clung to the wall, hanging in place to observe the scene below. He said in a low voice, "It's not easy to kill, let's get out first." Luke Hua and Trio Engvian immediately jumped down after him. Suddenly, a dense, dark purple aura appeared, spreading a strong energy. From somewhere, a mature zombie clone jumped down, causing a terrifying commotion. Sparks flew on the ground, its whole body covered with spikes, surrounded by a mysterious purple aura. Its internal power surged stronger and stronger, filling the space with blue-purple spiritual energy. Vuong Qiu looked at the monster, fear rising in his heart. Just as he finished speaking, it seemed provoked. Its grotesque face grew more ferocious, red eyes charging forward each step, shaking the floor violently. Trio Envian was horrified to realize it was targeting her directly, sharp teeth clenched, fierce eyes glaring. The zombie clone charged aggressively as if seeking revenge for earlier. She stood frozen, panic clearly visible in her eyes, facing the overwhelming aura of the monster. Vuong Qiu clenched his fists tightly, worry rising. Didn't expect to face the mature zombie clone again so soon. He drew his forged fire-leg sword, flames blazing fiercely. "But I am no longer the me from the past life," he declared coldly with a proud aura. 2 sword strikes fell, the brilliant flames lighting up the entire space, leaving 2 glowing red burn marks on the zombie clone's back, but the monster was unharmed. On the contrary, it grew more furious, its black eyes flickering with malice as it swung its giant fist toward Vuong Qiu. He quickly calculated, indeed, the mature zombie clone's body was much tougher, so he had to use that move. His hand burst into bright flames as he delivered a fiery punch straight to the monster's face. The tremendous force sent it flying to the side, its face distorted in a painful scream, the whole space ablaze. Lu Hua exclaimed in surprise, "So fire energy can be used like that, really powerful?" But from within the flames, the sharp hand of the zombie clone still reached out, refusing to yield. Vuong Qiu was undeterred, muttering, "Is this damage still not enough?" He smiled with cold eyes, "But this time I'm not fighting alone." Right behind him, Trio Anvian and Luke Hua joined forces, launching a blazing red fireball that blocked the entire site, a massive power like a nuclear bomb aimed straight at the zombie clone. But the monster roared fiercely with terrifying instincts, its hideous face glimpsed through the flames. It braced itself, using all its strength to block the fireball, causing the space to shatter and scatter debris. Though slightly wounded, its power weakened the fireball gradually. Trio Engvian and Luke Hua did not back down, fighting with even more effort around them. Fiery red whirlwinds repeatedly shot sparks aimed at the heart, the weak spot of the mature zombie clone. The constant fiery attacks gradually drained its strength, pushing it step by step into a weakened state before the combined power of the trio. Vuong Qiu, determined to finish it off, drew his forged fire-leg sword blazing with flames. At that moment, he shouted and swung twice at the zombie clone, but unexpectedly, the blade broke in two. The monster unleashed its latent power, its entire body engulfed in blazing blue flames full of overwhelming force. Vuong Qiu was stunned. What is this transformation? Is this the power of the mature zombie clone? Lu Hua exclaimed in shock. What kind of monster is this? Triwang Vian, on the other hand, kept a mischievous smile and muttered, Don't you see? It's a wonderful painting. Vuong Qiu calmly used his supernatural power to restore the broken sword. In the blink of an eye, the blade returned to its original powerful state. He silently calculated, With my current strength, I can't inflict a critical wound on it from a distance. Suddenly, he heard footsteps. Lim Qianchao appeared opposite him, joking, quite lively. Lu Hua recognized him and called out, Captain Lim. He was surprised. Lu Hua, why are you here? She hurriedly replied, Captain, wait a moment before speaking quickly. Help us deal with this monster. Lim Qincho stepped forward, cracking his knuckles, observing the undead mimic leader engulfed in blue flames. This one is different from the crazies I just handled. It brought new equipment from the network afterward. Lu Hua quickly warned Captain Liam, It's very strong. The armor on its body is extremely tough. He smirked, ready for action. Coincidentally, my favorite thing is smashing tough stuff, no fear at all. Liam Qinchao dashed straight toward the monster, each step trailing a roaring wave of blue energy. He sneered, throwing a punch filled with flickering blue energy, straight at the undead mimic's face, the blow so strong it staggered it, its red eyes showing pain. No wonder its special forces, its energy deployment is impressive. He challenged, gripping its arm tightly. Let's see who's stronger. Lim Qincho continuously unleashed punches like a storm into the monster's stomach, each strike carrying powerful layers of blue energy. The tough armor of the undead mimic leader gradually cracked and shattered after a series of consecutive blows, but it stubbornly fought back, its blazing red eyes radiating mad, killing intent. Vuong Qiu stood behind, murmuring, What? Mang? Vuong Qiu clenched the radiant forged fire leg sword tightly and charged into the battle eyes, blazing, shouting, Good chance, attack its heart! Trio An Vien and Lu Hua immediately took ready positions to coordinate. The undead mimic leader, now transformed into a far fiercer form, growling with its mouth wide open, exposing sharp teeth aimed straight at Lim Qianchao to bite. What kind of joke is this? He growled, retreating. From afar, a blazing fireball as hot as the flaming mountain shot straight at the monster. The burning power scorched its entire body in excruciating pain, almost tearing it apart. At that moment, Vuong Qiu charged forward with his sword, sparking thousands of electric sparks, shouting loudly, Now's the time! He stabbed the sword straight into its chest. The fierce flames pierced through its body, causing the undead mimic to scream miserably. In the blink of an eye, it exploded into ashes, creating a terrifying smoke and fire blast. The entire room was bathed in a red glow. Vuong Qiu held his blazing weapon, eyes fixed on the monster burned to cinders. Lim Qinchao stood coldly, observing beside him, thinking silently. This kid's skills aren't bad. Suddenly, Truan Vien groaned, watching the white ice on her hand slowly melt away. She jumped up beside the monster's corpse, shouting, My drawing board turned into a blackboard. Vuong Qiu smiled smugly behind her, his eyes sparkling. Lu Hua angrily pointed at Lim Qinchao and shouted, Captain Lim, you were too emotional just now, we almost lost. He replied nonchalantly with a joking tone. You underestimate me too much, I was just warming up. Lu Hua scoffed helplessly. Vuong Qiu stepped forward and asked Lu Hua, Is this lady? Smiling gently, she introduced, This tall, handsome guy is Liam Qianchao, my captain. Vuong Qiu tilted her head slightly, her gaze scanning the man before her as if evaluating every feature. Hello, she greeted with a deep but friendly voice. Let me introduce, this is Liam Qianchao, a pink-level awakener. Hearing that, Vuong Qiu stepped forward and extended her hand with a polite smile. Hello, I'm Vuong Qiu. Lim Qincho returned, the sharp gaze hidden behind his calm exterior. I am Lim Qincho. This name caused Vuong Qiu to frown slightly, a flicker of doubt flashing through her mind. Lim Qincho. Why does this name sound so strange? But he quickly sensed a powerful aura radiating from the other person, nothing ordinary. Intending to test the connection, he silently probed to see if he could establish a binding relationship with this person. However, the system inside his head suddenly spoke coldly and mechanically. You and Liam Qianchao do not have sufficient binding opportunity. Binding cannot be performed. Vuong Qiu nodded slightly, silently assessing. Indeed, this person is more cautious than he appears. Liam Qinchao seemed to sense the scrutiny and smiled faintly, his eyes sparkling with deep meaning. Yes, hello to you. Very strong. If given the chance, we should discuss together. Vuong Qiu smiled and responded with a gentle but confident tone. Thank you definitely when there's a chance. At that moment, Luke Hua beside them suddenly startled as if recalling something important. Right, we must quickly inform the Bureau. She hurriedly explained the current situation to both of them. The black rain has stopped, but the crazed people have not yet recovered. Lim Qincho gently placed his hand on her shoulder, his deep voice comforting. The Bureau already knows about this. Luke Hua frowned, his face still full of suspicion. What the hell is going on here? That guy just now doesn't look human anymore. Yes. Vuong Qiu couldn't hide her polite curiosity. Sorry I interrupted a bit. What do you mean, Luke Hua startled, covering his mouth and mumbling apologetically. It's me. I spoke out of turn. Lim Qincho didn't want to hide anything further, turning to look at her. His tone calm but decisive. It's okay to let him know. Today's situation has already rendered the Bureau's secrecy plan meaningless. Luke Hua nodded, took a deep breath, then turned to Vuong Qiu to explain briefly but clearly, Captain Liam and I actually belong to the Special Security Bureau, an official organization that monitors awakened individuals among the public using medical methods. Hearing this, Vuong Qiu raised her eyebrows slightly, her eyes showing surprise. Special Security Bureau. He repeated, full of curiosity, I'm surprised by your question. I've never heard of the Special Security Bureau before. He frankly expressed his thoughts, his tone sincere. No. I'm just surprised that the government has measures to monitor such superhumans. Lim Qincho smiled, his eyes flashing sharply. Of course they do. After all, not every awakened person has stable powers that can change someone's mind. Yes? Vuong Qiu nodded in agreement. That makes sense. But immediately after, he furrowed his brow, lost in thought. Isn't the Special Security Bureau the predecessor of the Luke Jiak Society? He thought silently, the flash of astonishment lighting up his mind. Unexpectedly, the Luke Jiak Society, a famous organization in the post-apocalyptic era, was founded right at the dawn of this age. While Luke Hua and Lim Qincho continued their discussion, Vuong Qiu quietly stood there, her deep eyes seemingly absorbed in her own calculations. Yes, Vuong Qiu lost in thought, her dreamy eyes rummaging through memories. That's right, the flame. Queen Luke Hua, isn't she a prominent figure of the Luke Jiak Society? A flash of realization. So from the start, she belonged to the Luke Jiak Society. Vuong Qiu suddenly pointed a cold sword at the motionless monster, its blood dried and smeared. Vuong Qiu turned to Lim Qincho, her tone low and meaningful. Did you just come up from below? May I ask, did you meet anyone else? Lim Qincho furrowed his brows, his eyes showing confusion. Others? You mean normal people inside this entire building? Besides the crazed ones, there's no one else. Nearby, Trio Anvin gloomily poked a weapon into the distorted face of the monster. Hearing this, Vuong Qiu froze, her face shocked. What? He muttered, his heart tightening. Could it be? She couldn't possibly. He turned and rushed off, leaving Luke Hua and Lim Qincho stunned. Yes, Vuong Qiu, you. Luke Hua called out, but he cut her off, his face serious. I have to confirm something. I need to go downstairs. He crossed through the area filled with corpses, blood splattered the scene, desolate like an apocalyptic painting with no sign of life. Vuong Qiu jumped over bodies and debris, a cold fear rising in her chest. Could it be that because I was resurrected, everything is distorted and caused trouble for her? He cursed himself stupid. If only I hadn't blindly trusted the resurrection memories and had investigated carefully. Why does a familiar figure suddenly appear? Vuong Qiu stopped, her eyes wide with surprise. A girl with long black hair lay face down on the ground, her body covered in blood, showing no sign of life. He couldn't believe his eyes, tears tremblingly streaming down. He reached out to touch the motionless body, but when he turned it over, he was startled. The face was wrinkled, most teeth missing. Who is she? He sighed in relief, murmuring, Luckily, it's not her. She must have left before this place was overrun. Luke Hua stepped up from behind his voice. Worried Vuong Qiu. Did you find your sister? He replied immediately, his tone calmer. Didn't find her. Surely she ran away before the building fell into this situation. Luke Hua smiled, his eyes softening. That's good then. Vuong? Qiu looked down at the corpse, frowned, her tone frustrated. I just don't know where my sister is now. Suddenly a voice rang out. Maybe I know where your sister is. Vuong Qiu turned around and saw Lim Qincho standing there, his eyes cold but shining with hard-to-read confidence. Vuong Qiu spun around, eyes sharp, as she looked at Lim Qincho, voice urgent. You know? Lim Qincho nodded calmly, his eyes flashing with confidence. This place previously showed signs of a Hong-level awakened individual. I came here to investigate. Because of that, if your sister was also in this building before, I think she might now be with that awakened person. Vuong Qiu hurriedly asked, voice betraying her impatience. Do you have a way to find that awakened person? Lim Keen Cho held up his phone, displaying a location, smiling smugly. Of course I do. I'm a professional. Elsewhere, a small skirmish was underway. The Dongkin group's eyes went wide mouths agape, witnessing a young man frozen solid. Tuklam, with cold eyes, placed his hand on the ice surface, voice defiant. Why won't you all just obediently listen? His hand gripped hard, causing the ice to crack. You are all very valuable materials. In an instant, the block of ice shattered into pieces. Witnessing the unbelievable sight, everyone was stunned. Tuklam smirked cruelly. Every time I ruin one of you, the others feel really heartbroken. 3 masked men stepped forward, bowing respectfully. Lord Tuklam, the experimental equipment is ready. He pointed forward and ordered decisively, then you all start immediately. They quickly tied up the people in shocked confusion. Tuklam suddenly turned back, voice lazy. By the way, where's Amdin? One replied immediately, Lord Amdin is on the 2nd floor. Tuklam turned his back and left indifferently. Someone's going to find him, the rest is up to you. The tied-up group was led to an experimental table where a body with severed limbs lay motionless. A girl named Vuong Huan was placed on the table, her hands and feet tightly bound, tears streaming down her face, voice trembling in despair. Let me go! What exactly do you want to do? In her heart, she silently prayed, will anyone come to save me? Xiao Qiu, and at the same time, Lim Kin Chao's phone lit up, showing the location signal. He pointed to the building ahead, voice firm. This is the place. The psychic fluctuation ended here. The awakened person is inside. Vuong. Qiu clenched her fists, eyes serious. Let's go inside. The group entered. Lu Hua asked worriedly, turning to Captain Lim. Are you sure someone's here? Lim Kin Cho glanced at his phone, replying nonchalantly. Even if you don't trust me, you have to trust science. Vuong Qiu touched the table surface, her fingers instantly covered in dust, feeling like this place had been abandoned for a long time. Lim Kin Chao shouted loudly without hesitation. Hey, is anyone here? Lu Hua spoke with determination. Let's search around and see. Vuong Qiu climbed the stairs. Long thought silently. The mysterious awakened person, plus the group of mature zombies earlier, it seems the Special Security Bureau prepared early. He glanced at Liam Kien Chao, who was focused on his phone, suspicion flickering in his eyes. This guy is definitely hiding something. He started rummaging, but everything was covered in thick dust. Lim Kien Chao frowned. Voice puzzled. I don't understand, the location point clearly shows right here. Truang Vien interrupted with a confused expression. Could they have flown to the sky or burrowed underground? The remark made everyone mutter in surprise. Flew to the sky, burrowed underground. Vuong Qiu suddenly pointed to the floor, eyes sharp. Do you think they might be underground? Lu Kua's eyes lit up as he clapped loudly. A basement is very possible. Lim Keen. Cho didn't wait, clenching his fist excitedly. Don't ask if or not. Just look, and you'll know. Lu Kua shouted in alarm. No, are you really going to do that? Lim Keen Cho's fist struck the floor hard, the ground shaking violently. Lu Hua screamed with a trembling voice. What was that? Don't wait a moment. But it was too late. The floor cracked open, revealing a secret basement below. In the darkness, 2 men curled up, one trembling voice panicked. Can Jr. of Tuang Kan. Tuang Kan snapped irritably. How would I know? Suddenly, the tiles on the basement ceiling cracked and shattered. In an instant, the floor collapsed and a cloud of dust rose up. A man raised his hand to shield his eyes. Voice terrified. What was that sound? The house collapsed. Liam Kien Chao calmly brushed off the dust and laughed loudly amidst everyone's coughing. Ha ha, there really is a basement. Just then, Vuong Qiu and Truan Vien stepped down into the basement, their sharp eyes sweeping over the scene. Lu Hua pointed forward urgently. Vuong Qiu is Tuang Kan. Vuong Qiu froze, his eyes flaring with anger. What? Tuang Kan and his henchmen trembled in panic when they saw them. Do you recognize me? Hesitating. Vuong Qiu cast a spell, brilliant flames bursting from his hands. Of course we recognize you. You handed my sister over and even told me to come by myself. He drew his sword, wrapped in flames, pointing it coldly at Tuang Chan. Now I'm here. Suddenly a bright blue lightning bolt flashed, attracting everyone's attention as it struck the ground repeatedly. At the same time, a huge boulder hurtled toward Lim Kien Chao. He cut through the powerful kick like lightning, sending the boulder flying far away amid thick dust. Lim Kien Cho sneered. Sneaking attack, you little rats! Suddenly that boulder instantly froze. Tuklam stepped forward arrogantly. Not bad, that force is pretty strong. He waved his hand to cast a spell, instantly covering the surrounding walls in ice. He mocked, The guard dog always sells his ass to me, huh? Next to him, Amdin stood silently, eyes cold and sharp. Lim Keen Cho responded unflinchingly. Hey, your mouth stinks too much. Let me wash your mouth out first. Just then, Tuong Khan pointed at Tuk Lam and shouted, They are the ones! They captured my sister. It has nothing to do with me. I'm going in to find them. Hearing this, Vuong Q's face darkened, his eyes blazing with murderous intent. Where is my sister? Tuk Lam put his hands in his pockets, feigning ignorance. Your sister? He squinted with a twisted smile like a crescent moon. If you mean that material right now, He paused with a malicious tone. She's probably dead already. Yes. Vuong Q's eyes widened, face pale. What did you say? He clenched his fists, pain cutting through him. Even if she came back to life, she still couldn't change her fate. Why again? Tuk Lam sneered mockingly. But now that you're here, it's just in time for you to pick up her body. Lu Kwa couldn't hold back the fiery power blazing from her hand's voice. Furious, you bastards! But she hesitated, raising her hand to shield herself. Triwen Vien was quicker, lunging forward with a broken wall piece still embedded with an iron rod. Leave it to me. Tuk Lam raised his hand, face full of delight so violent. The moment the wall piece fell, a block of ice appeared, blocking the attack. Lu Kwa frowned, muttering, This shell is unexpectedly thick. Tuk Lam smugly said arrogantly. The girl doesn't know fear of death. In an instant, a sharp ice spear shot straight at her. Lu Kwa tilted her body and blocked with her hand as the spear grazed her cheek, drawing blood. Not only defending, but attacking too. Suddenly, a voice rang out. The ropes suddenly lunged forward. Lim Keen Chow cast his A-level Blood Rage psychic spell from behind. But at that moment, an invisible hand grabbed his ankle. He startled and looked down, voice surprised. What? Immediately, that hand pulled hard, dragging him underground. Lu Kwa was shocked, turning around with a horrified look, as a large circle appeared clearly on the ground where Lim Kien Chow was pulled down. Meanwhile, Trio An Vien's battle continued fiercely. She poured more power into the ropes, a fierce smile spreading on her lips. Ha ha ha! Watch me stab right through you, you bastard! The ropes, as if alive, pierced through Tuk Lam's thick ice layer. He froze, unable to believe his eyes. What Trio An Vien shouted even louder. I'll stab a big hole right through you, you bastard! Lam growled, face twisted just by you crack. Suddenly, an explosion shook the dust into a thick cloud. Two figures gradually appeared in the smoke. Trio An Vien's mouth trickled blood. Her head drooped, a sharp ice spear from Tuk Lam had pierced through her body. He sneered with satisfaction, ha ha ha, you lost. But with a miraculous strength, Trio An Vien forced herself up, her voice weak but determined. So be it. She tightly grasped his wrist, her eyes blazing. Vuong Q, now is the time for revenge. What are you still hesitating for? Vuong Q seemed to awaken, unleashing the blazing fire fist, the sword in his hand burning fiercely. His gaze darkened as he advanced, step by step. That's right, now is still not the time to be dazed. His eyes flashed brightly, his body radiating the red glow of fire. He rushed forward like lightning while Amdin from behind began casting magic, the crackling electricity sounding piercingly. She concentrated her power, releasing a strong beam of electric light. Then let me take you on first. The hundreds of volts electric beam shot toward Vuong Q, creating a cloud of smoke from the high-voltage electric strike. Vuong Q easily dodged the attack by slipping aside. Tuk Lam released Trio An Vien, roaring, Hey, don't interfere, this is my game. Trio An Vien grimaced, her voice weak but sharp. It's not your turn yet. Suddenly, ropes crawled up from the ground, tightly binding Tuk Lam, suspending his body in midair. Even exhausted, Trio An Vien yelled loudly, You act now! Vuong Q charged forward, his blazing fire fist burning fiercely, aimed straight at Tuk Lam D. Before the blow landed, Tuk Lam still taunted. Relying on you two to kill me. He counterattacked, summoning dense ice shields. The clash of the two powers caused explosive booming sounds. The strikes from Vuong Q's blazing fire fist carried tremendous force, shattering each thick ice shield, the sound of breaking ice falling like a chaotic symphony. Lu Kwa below noticed Trio An Vien. She hurriedly caught, her heart aching to see her body gradually weaken. The sharp ice-piercing Trio An Vien drained her strength, making her like a flickering candle about to go out. Lu Kwa panicked, her voice trembling, seeing blood still flowing from Trio An Vien's wound. If she keeps bleeding like this, it's very dangerous. I need to stop the bleeding immediately. She tried to persuade her, if you don't stop the bleeding, you will die. But despite exhaustion, Trio An Vien forced herself up reassuringly. I'm fine. She focused her strength on the ice, piercing through her, melting it, gritting her teeth, enduring the pain a little longer. At that moment, a thunderous explosion drew everyone's attention. Vuong Q landed on the ground, sweat pouring after a series of attacks. In front of him, the giant ice shattered and trembled as if about to collapse. He exclaimed in surprise, everything's okay now. Triwang Vian collapsed weakly, whispering, "Did we succeed?" But behind the ice, despite being covered in wounds, Tuklam still smiled mockingly. Dangerous? Really dangerous, almost died. Triwang Vian clutched her wound, a sharp pain flared fiercely, making her nearly collapse. Meanwhile, underground Lim Kin Cho's situation grew more critical. A large hole appeared, accompanied by the sound of breaking water shaking everything. He was crushed by Nam Li, the cramped space making it hard to breathe. He sneered viciously. "You all look down on us rats, but we can easily adapt to life underground." Nyamli Ti, awakened abyssal elemental, curled his lips in disdain. Lim Kin Cho frowned, his voice tense. "That stone just now was yours." He laughed loudly. "Now you're not even worth a rat." Lim Kin Cho began suffocating, but Nyam Li continued mocking. "What a joke. Before your body rots, experience the silence underground." On the surface, Tuk Lam transformed his entire body into ice, summoning terrifying power. A sharp ice storm rained down, the ice spikes shooting straight at Vung Q. He didn't stand still, counterattacking with blazing fire, fist fire, and ice collided, generating explosive booms, neither giving ground. Vung Q looked at Tuk Lam, worry rising. His strength had grown even stronger. Tuk Lam laughed arrogantly. "You pesky ant, obediently accept your death." Suddenly, the ground shook. A figure emerged. Nam Li and Umdin appeared. Nyam Li glanced at Tuk Lam teasingly. "Are you guys not done yet?" Umding confidently smirked coldly. "Looks like it's about time." Tuk Lam, is he going crazy again? "It's not the first time you know him." The two standing aside spoke back and forth as if watching the battle for amusement. Meanwhile, Vung Q charged straight at Tuk Lam with his blazing fiery fists. The ice hammer strikes kept coming at him, but his momentum didn't falter at all. Vung Q nimbly dodged the ice spikes without difficulty, swinging his sword to cleave the bulky ice blocks in half. His fiery fists blazed up like a blazing red rocket as he shouted fiercely with murderous intent, "Die!" The flaming arrow shot swiftly toward Tuk Lam, slicing through the air. He froze, gasping in shock. "Give it to me!" But with quick reflexes, Tuk Lam leaned to the side, easily avoiding the attack, looking at the arrow that caused no damage. He sneered with disdain. "Really a rookie fighting, and yet throwing away your weapon already don't know what to do." Suddenly, the flaming arrow stopped mid-air, motionless in a strange way. Tuk Lam was stunned, his eyes showing confusion. Vung Q smirked triumphantly, lucky to have triggered the trap. The arrow suddenly spun, forming a terrifying fiery vortex, hurtling straight at Tuk Lam, its fierce power burning the very space. Nyam Li, standing afar, shouted in horror. "Look, a sea of flames is erupting in front of him." Tuk Lam stood like a green stone amid the flames without a hint of fear. Despite blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, one hand gripped his fiery sword, the other had been severed earlier. He roared in accusation, "You damn kid, you almost succeeded!" Vung Q looked at Tuk Lam, his eyes flashing helplessness. He was really tough. He gritted his teeth, his face dark and grim. "Damn it! Just a little more and I wouldn't hesitate." He focused on his target, advancing toward the raging smoke and flames. He had to take advantage of this chance to finish him off from afar. But just then, through the dense smoke, a pair of legs covered in blazing blue electricity appeared. Before Vung Q could react, Nyam Li dived down from above. His body solid like brown stone, he raised a fist wrapped in shining, fiery energy and struck directly at Vung Q, causing him pain and forcing his eyes shut. Not stopping, Nam Li continued his assault, unleashing a storm of blue electric fire thunderously striking down. The lightning hit Vung Q, making him stagger. Vung Q quickly retreated to dodge the attack. The battlefield was in ruins, thick with smoke and dust, lightning and fire still lingering. He gripped his wounded arm and roared angrily, "Damn you, Lu Hua!" Supporting Trio Anvian with one hand, unable to hold back his rage, he pointed directly at the shameless enemy. "You can't win one-on-one, so you gang up." Umding sneered with contempt. "Such an innocent little girl." Nyam Li, with a sarcastic smile, condescendingly said, "Ha-ha, war is full of deceit." Behind Tuk Lam, his body was shredded, picking up shattered jade pieces and patching the holes burned by fire on his body. Though he lost an arm, his eyes showed no fear, only arrogance. He smirked with a mocking tone. "You're the awakened one with two powers, not bad, not bad." Vung Q's face smeared with smoke and dust, he pondered, "I still hid my metal control power to catch him off guard, yet I was still blocked." He glanced at Tuk Lam's two accomplices, one electric, one magma system. The battlefield was now clearly divided. The ground was dotted with deep green jade shards. He silently calculated his next step. Lim Kin Cho must have been dragged away by that rock guy. Triwang Vin was seriously injured. Lu Hua hadn't adapted to the battle yet. Only I can fight now. Even 1 against 3, I must kill him to avenge my sister. Suddenly, in the silent space, an unusual sound rang out. Lim Kin-cho's face darkened fiercely, charging from afar, lunging at Nam Lee. He squeezed his throat tightly, forcing him to fall to the ground. Lim Kin-cho's whole body was tense, veins bulging on his arm. He gritted his teeth, raising a fist wrapped in a blazing red electric vortex. "The bastard inside me right now is the super calm one, huh?" Saying that, he charged into the fierce battle. Thick white smoke covered everything, rocks flying everywhere. No one could see the unfolding fight clearly. Vunkyu and Luk Hua coughed harshly, hastily shielding their eyes from the dust. When the smoke cleared, Lim Kin-cho stood proudly amid the dense aura. His face smeared with sweat and dirt, he gave a faint smile. Tough, definitely a mole that can't see the light running really fast. Nyam Lee breathed heavily, retreating toward his teammates, wiping sweat with a frightened voice. That was really dangerous. Lim Kin-cho turned with sharp eyes to his teammates. "How is it? Can you still fight?" "Yes," Vunkyu smirked, replying with a slight smile. "Actually, I should be the one asking you that. I was just warming up." Lim Kin-cho clapped him on the shoulder, laughing loudly. "Ha ha ha! All right, then let's strip these stinky rats down together." Suddenly, Vunkyu froze, her eyes flashing as the system notification appeared before them. The host and Lim Kin-cho have become comrades in arms. The binding opportunity has gained a multiple return reward. Another message popped up. "Thanks to the multiple return, you have obtained A-level supernatural ability Berserk Rage." He thought silently, so this is his power. On the other side, Tuklam's furious roar cut through his thoughts. "Those damn bastards are unforgivable!" Ding immediately stopped him, her voice cold. "There aren't many retreat paths left below. We should prepare to withdraw. Don't be greedy for battle." But Tuklam, with bloodshot eyes, shouted, "Do you still need me to be taught how to do my job?" Seeing his arrogance. Ding did not hesitate. Her hand crackled with blue electricity, gripping his arm tightly. "You've lost control. Calm down first." A strong electric shock made Tuklam exclaim in panic. "Oh!" He collapsed unconscious in Nam Lee's arms. Din gave a sharp order. "Take him away so that kid can release the crazies." Nyam Lee frowned in confusion. "Use these here to catch those crazies. We've already exhausted so much effort." She calmly replied, "They're just a few half-dead lunatics. We can always add more." Nyam Lee nodded. "All right, then." Saying so, he pulled Tuklam gently down to the ground. Vunkyu immediately noticed the movement, frowned, and growled, "They're trying to run." He dashed forward to decisively block them. Lim Kin-cho followed closely, his voice full of mockery. "Where do these little rats think they're running to? I'll stop them." On the other side, Ding was ready, her hands raised, summoning 2 dazzling electric spheres. She ordered the thunder spheres to unleash a brilliant electric charge at the opponent's go. Vunkyu nimbly dodged the first sphere, while the other didn't trouble Lim Kin-cho. Both rushed forward relentlessly, their momentum undiminished. Ding gathered her inner strength, the eerie blue electric spheres in her hands glowing fiercely, the aura bursting violently as if wanting to swallow the space. Vunkyu and Lim Kin-cho rushed close to Ding, full of fiery fighting spirit. He shouted mockingly, "Too bad you're off target." Ding narrowed her eyes, the long scar on her face gleaming with malice. Her eyes full of contempt swept over the two. "Is that so?" Her hands clenched tightly. The bright electric stream flared up the sharp aura enveloping the space. The electric sphere above suddenly exploded, creating a violent shockwave. The tremendous power made the room shake, rocks falling like a storm. At this moment, Luk Hua and Trio Anvin were startled and exclaimed, "What's that?" 10 huge boulders crashed down, powerful enough to crush everything. Luk Hua hurriedly bent down, crossing his arms to shield Trio Anvin carefully. Meanwhile, Vunkyu and Lim Kin-cho combined their strength-wielding swords to confront Ding. Suddenly, both were alarmed by movement behind them. Thick clouds of dust and smoke blocked their view. Falling debris clattered loudly, echoing sharply. Ding smiled slyly, her voice arrogant. "Hey, where are you two looking?" Vunkyu and Lim Kin-cho realized they had fallen for a diversion tactic. Both quickly shielded their eyes from the fierce force. What a mess. The space was now desolate, covered in smoke and dust rubble piled in heaps. Lim Kin-cho shouted anxiously, "Are you okay?" Vunkyu groggily crawled up and shook his head. "I'm fine." That move of hers had no damaging force. Already running away. Suddenly, through the dust cloud, Lim Kin-cho shouted fearfully, "Damn it, Luk Hua!" Yes, Vunkyu also loudly called out to Trio Anvin, but silence answered in the space. Under the pile of rocks, Luk Hua curled up, eyes tightly shut, voice trembling. "Am I about to die?" And despite severe injuries, Trio Anvin was barely breathing. Weak eyes, her vitality nearly drained, but she still forced out a purple energy to hold back the collapsing rocks. Her voice hoarse, "Hey, how long are you going to keep pretending to be clueless there?" Luk Hua suddenly snapped back to reality. Trio Anvin. struggling to speak while gathering strength. Although you rushed to save me, I'm touched, but you pressing on me is still really inconvenient. Lu Hua forced a smile and quickly stepped back. Sorry, almost forgot your ability is metal manipulation. Tru Anvien coughed up blood staining her hand, her face contorted in pain. Lu Hua's eyes widened in horror. Coughing up blood, she hurriedly supported her comrade, voice trembling. Are you okay? Is your body still holding up? Though exhausted, Trio Anvien weakly uttered a few words. I'm fine. Suddenly, a sound echoed from outside. Lu Hua immediately listened carefully, then shouted hopefully, Do you two hear that? We're here. Liam Qian Chao recognized the call and pointed directly at the pile of rocks where they were. Instantly, Vuong Qiu emitted brilliant amber energy, lifting the large rocks. He rushed over, eyes anxious. Are you both okay? Lu Hua and Trio Anvien, though battered, finally broke free. Lu Hua sighed in relief, voice shaky. Thankfully, you two arrived. In another corner, Tuong Khan curled up in the dark corner, looking cowardly, grinding his teeth and complaining, What kind of people am I messing with here? And his subordinate panicked. Big brother, let's run. Tuong Khan frowned and pointed to the door ahead. There's an exit, or should we quietly leave? And he chuckled smugly, hee. Both tiptoed carefully through the room. Vuong Qiu's group remained focused. He turned and asked in a deep voice, Can you still locate their position? Liam Qian. Chao frowned, looking at his phone. Puzzled. Strange why. They didn't run far, just stopped nearby. He saw a steady light on the screen and stopped in surprise. Then suddenly a piercing scream came from the other side along with noise. Vuong Qiu immediately reminded, You all stay here and wait for us, we'll go check the situation. Lu Hua nodded. Okay. Outside, two creatures with grotesque mirror-like faces screamed, chasing Tuong Chan and his subordinate, both terrified, running frantically. The subordinate shouted in panic, Big brother, run fast! Back to the awakened ones, so they can be treated. Tuong Khan gave a sinister sneer, clinging to his subordinate's shoulder. No, I still have another way. The subordinate looked confused. Huh. And without hesitation, Tuong Chan threw his subordinate towards the zombies as bait. The subordinate screamed angrily, You bastard! Even as a ghost, I'll never let you go. Tuong Khan coldly replied, Wait until you're a ghost, then talk. Ignoring the cries, he rushed toward Vuong Qiu, shouting, Save me! With Vuong Qiu and Liam Qian Chao standing there with cold gazes, Tuong Khan stopped pretending to be scared. Everywhere are cannibal madmen. Like grabbing a lifeline, he grabbed Vuong Qiu's hand, begging, Please, save me! Before he could finish, Vuong Qiu's face darkened, frowning angrily. Save you! He grabbed Tuong Chan's neck, forcefully pushed him hard, so he hit his head on the pillar behind Tuong Khan's face, turned purple sweat pouring down like a shower. Vuong Qiu gritted his teeth, eyes cold as ice. Give me one reason not to kill you. Despite the pain, Tuong Khan threatened boldly. Your sister might still be alive. Tuong Khan's words made Vuong Qiu hesitate. His eyes flickered violently. He squeezed harder and growled. What did you say? Tuong Khan, pale and suffering, forced out. The blue-haired one told us it was a precious body experiment just taken away not long ago than you arrived, so maybe your sister is still alive. And please spare me a life. I'll give you money, lots of money. Liam Qian Chao placed a hand on Vuong Qiu's shoulder from behind, voice calm, trying to soothe Vuong Qiu. Calm down. He hasn't mutated yet. You can't kill him. Tuong Khan took the chance to continue quickly. Yes, I'm still normal. You can't kill me. Killing me is illegal. Vuong Qiu's eyes flared with rage. Normal in my eyes. Normal in my... Firepower burst forth, surrounding his body. Tuong Khan widened his eyes in horror. You want to do what? He screamed miserably, feeling the burning heat. No, Vuong Qiu coldly let go, causing Tuong Khan to slip to the ground, trembling. You were never considered human. Liam Qian Chao called out in panic. Vuong Qiu, you... He frowned and turned with a sharp voice. Let's go. Aren't those awakened ones your real target? If we stay here too long, they'll escape. Liam Qian Chao was stunned and blurted out, What? He thought silently, how does he know? Vuong Qiu twisted his wrist, his face dangerous. I almost believed the fabricated so-called investigation into your supernatural fluctuations, until I saw the other side's attitude toward us. He continued coldly, 4 awakened, suddenly stepping into the enemy base. They weren't surprised at all. Instead, they looked like they had prepared long ago. Liam Qianchao hesitated, his gaze wavering. That matter. Vuong Qio turned to face him, raising his voice to question. The so-called help to save my sister was just a lie, wasn't it? Back then, you weren't sure if my sister was actually taken by them. The truth is, you knew the enemy situation long ago, knowing you alone couldn't win, so you used my sister as an excuse to get me to agree, right? Liam Qianchao replied frankly with a serious face. You're right, but I never felt like I was deceiving you. Back then, since we couldn't find your sister's body, I guessed it was very likely she had been taken by those people. He paused, eyes resolute. The truth proved I was right. Yes. Vuong Qio frowned, his eyes blazing with anger, staring at the other before snorting coldly. So now you intend to share information about those guys with me? I'm afraid not yet. We have other matters first. He calmly turned his head after speaking. His cold gaze focused on the horde of zombies, swarming like ants, screaming and rushing toward a leading zombie with blood-red eyes and a wide-open mouth showing terrifying fangs roaring madly. In a flash, Liam Qianchao darted forward like lightning, delivering a powerful punch to the zombie's face, knocking several teeth to the ground. Seeing their comrade fall, the remaining zombies immediately howled and stretched their disgusting arms straight at him. Vuong Qio stood behind, slightly frowning, looking puzzled. How could there still be so many of these fake creatures? He muttered deeply, immediately activating his supernatural power. His hands glowing with a faint light, a huge matrix appeared. Suddenly, a massive stone emerged. Sharp steel columns exploded, piercing through the hearts of the zombies, causing them to fall with horrific screeches. Vuong Qio stood leisurely like someone on a stroll, but wiped out the entire zombie horde in just a few breaths. Liam Qianchao watched the scene with his mouth agape, lips trembling slightly, thinking, oh my god, how can someone's supernatural power be this excellent? The remaining zombies realized the unfavorable situation and hurriedly turned to flee. Vuong Qio was startled for a moment and shouted, Damn, there's one behind us too! Without hesitation, he dashed after, but still managed to throw a sentence to Liam Qianchao. I'm going to help them. You hold the line here. Liam Qianchao nodded decisively, voice firm. No problem, leave it to me. Meanwhile, fierce flames burst forth. Luke Hua, with his fire element power, burned each zombie in blazing flames. Triwang Vian stood behind and spoke softly with a teasing tone. The way you use your supernatural power isn't very original. Luke Hua immediately retorted, eyes flashing with irritation. At important moments like this, don't be sarcastic, okay? She muttered in a trembling voice. Don't worry, Vuong Qio will be back soon. Triwang Vian replied, her cheeks, blushing, eyes shining with admiration mixed with slight embarrassment. Yes, I know, because he is... Before she could finish, a flash of electricity struck, wiping out all the zombies in front of them. Vuong Qio appeared heroically like a superhero throwing a powerful punch. His solid hand grabbed a zombie's neck, causing it to panic and scream, no, no. Ignoring the pitiful cries, Vuong Qio continued fighting, taking down each zombie. He spoke in a steady voice, giving a firm order. You guys go ahead, I'll follow behind. By then, Triwang Vian was exhausted and gasping. Vuong Qio didn't hesitate to carry her on his back, briefed to the group, and rushed off like a whirlwind, leaving a cloud of dust behind. Liam Qianchao led the way, pointing at the door ahead, shouting, This way! The whole group hurriedly followed Vuong Qio, who was carrying Triwang Vian. His sharp eyes scanned the chaos as he grumbled irritably. These lunatics are just like annoying flies. Can't they come out one at a time so I can deal with them properly? Still running ahead? He glanced at Liam Qianchao, his voice lowered with a hint of concern. What's wrong? Liam Qianchao sped up with powerful strides, answering thoughtfully, I know these fake creatures, but this crazy one seems to be slowing us down in an orderly way. He dashed forward, suspicion flashing in his eyes. What you're saying sounds strange. Could it be they're gradually regaining their sanity? Luke Hua followed Chen, voice full of doubt. So are they starting to return to normal? Yes. Vuong Qio pressed her lips quickly, considering in her mind the process of turning into fake creatures is irreversible. Only upon reaching the 5th level can they use reason. Could it be... He suddenly recalled the scene of everyone gathered around the blazing fire in the forest and curiously asked, Is there anyone who can control the fake creatures? The old man sitting beside him calmly replied, Yes. He is called the Guardian King, a famous disaster-level awakener in the southern region. The image of a monster in a spiked suit flashed through Vuong Qiu's mind. The old man slowly puffed on his cigarette and said, "It's said that his gathering place basically has no living people, only terrifying pseudo-creatures." Those words made Vuong Qiu's eyes widen. He covered his mouth and exclaimed in shock, "That's horrifying." The old man nodded with a deep voice. "Yes, very scary. But sometimes thinking back compared to colleagues who might stab us in the back anytime these pseudo-creatures are a bit more trustworthy." Suddenly, Trio Anvian poked his cheek, pulling Vuong Qiu out of his thoughts. He looked at her blankly and forced a reassuring smile. "It's okay, let's keep moving." In his heart, he hoped he was just overthinking it. The Guardian King probably hadn't appeared this early. Lim Qincho delivered a strong kick, flipping the stone blocking the door. It fell cracking into pieces. He breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, we're outside. The whole group hurried out to face the scene of the ruined and desolate city. Vuong Qiu still carried Trio Anvin on his back, frowning anxiously as he checked his phone and asked, "Can you track their trail?" Lim Qincho shook his head, looking confused and surprised. "We can't track them anymore. Those crazies are using them to block us. What do we do now? Should we return to base?" Vuong Qiu looked down at the girl sleeping on his back, feeling heavy-hearted. Trio Anvian's wound needs immediate treatment. Besides, to find those people, we have to rely on the power behind them. Lim Qincho turned to his teammates and asked frankly, "Can you bring outsiders back?" Then he tried to explain clearly. "Given the current situation, every awakened person is vital to the Bureau. They won't refuse." "Yes." Vuong Qiu hurriedly ordered with determination, "Then let's bring them back there." "Which side to walk on?" Here he seems anxious. Lim Qianchao quickly spoke calmly to soothe. "No rush. I already sent the location to the Bureau earlier. They should arrive soon." He pulled out a small box and fired a signal flare into the sky, the bright light like fireworks illuminating a corner of the sky. Soon the sound of a helicopter came from afar. Lim Qincho smiled brightly and cheered. "They're here! The helicopter is landing!" The group inside quickly placed Trio Anvian on a stretcher and took her inside. Vuong Qiu looked at the Bureau team with a polite but sincere tone. "Thank you for your hard work. Yes, from now on, let the logistics team search around to see if anyone else survived." The other person nodded and replied briefly. Behind Vuong Qiu sat down. Lu Qua held his hand tightly as they boarded the helicopter. The machine took off and merged into the dark night. Looking through the window, he pressed his lips together, his eyes sad, gazing into the distance, his heart heavy. "Sister, wait for me." On the table in front of him, several stacks of documents appeared, including information about his sister, Vuong Huan, experimental subject, 17.2-1, early stage, successful experiment. She had awakened her psychic power. Suddenly, a cloud of white smoke rose, obscuring the view. Nyamli noticed Tuklam's unsettled mood and quickly spoke to soothe Tuklam. "Don't get agitated." But Tuklam clenched his fists and face filled with murderous intent, cursing, "Damn it." He glared and said harshly, "Tell me who is that witch, Amdin." She had the nerve to shock me with electricity just now. The three of them were startled as the white dust spread from the table to the floor. Nyamli exclaimed in surprise. "Huh." Tuklam pressed a button to listen on the desk phone. A cold voice sounded. "I am very disappointed in you." Tuklam panicked, placing his hand on the table, and quickly explained I was momentarily careless. If it weren't for Amdin's electric shock stun, I could have totally... But the other person cut him off coldly. "I'm not interested in hearing your excuses. The Special Security Bureau has already been watching you." The whole group listened attentively. The person decisively ordered, "From now on, you must temporarily hide." Namli said, "Your ability makes you more suitable for moving." Yes, he and Father Lloyd together supplemented the consumption. This time his ability is very important to us in the future. Tuklam bowed his head and replied curtly, "Yes." The other person continued to instruct, "Now that the world is in chaos like this, I guess very soon the Special Security Bureau won't have the energy to pay attention to us anymore." Tuklam and Amdin, the two responsible for preparing Phase 2 of the experiment, remember that. "I hope we won't make mistakes again." Tuklam grimaced, gritting his teeth, and responded sharply, "Yes." Amdin nodded coldly in agreement. "Understood." Not long after, inside the large building, a strong psychic power burst out straight ahead, tearing through space. The white smoke gradually cleared to reveal Vuong Qiu just having unleashed the true fire to detect metal, a brilliant energy explosion. Lim Qinchao stood beside, eyes wide open, thinking silently. Sure enough, this destructive power has reached its limit. He turned and smiled appreciatively. Your ability may have already risen to the high-potential psychic category. Hearing this, Vuong Qiu paused, condensing a sparkling arrow in his hand, and asked in surprise, "High-potential psychic category?" Liam Keen Chow nodded straightforwardly and explained, "That's right. I remember the book that records that category." He spoke evenly. "This is the S-tier list compiled by the Bureau. You probably know about the sensory chi domain, right?" Vuong Qiu nodded briefly. "I know. Psychic powers are the result of humans awakening the sensory chi domain." Lim Kien Chow continued, his gaze sharp. "Exactly. This book records spatial materials, mental control, healing, transformation. Everyone has a sensory chi domain, but those who awaken it are more sensitive to it. However, some people have the talent to simultaneously extend multiple sensory chi domains. Such people, after awakening, find it very difficult to separate their psychic attributes." Finishing the sentence, he activated blood chi and fury, his body radiating a fierce, bright red light like fire. Although multisensory chi psychic powers are not necessarily stronger than a single sensory chi domain, many cases form more complex, powerful forces, which are the high-potential psychic powers. His psychic power exploded. Liam Kien Chow turned and threw a powerful punch, shaking the air. "My blood chi and fury psychic power is an ability that transcends two cognitive domains, controlling both material and mental systems." Vuong Qiu nodded slightly as if understanding something and said, "So it means the important thing is not having multiple sensory chi domains, but whether they can be integrated with multiple sensory chi domains, right?" Liam Kien Chow smiled comfortably and nodded. "Exactly." Vuong Qiu frowned thoughtfully, his eyes fixed on the psychic arrow floating in the air, thinking, "No wonder when using the psychic powers of Luke Hua and Triuan Vien, I felt easy to control. But when using Liam Kien Chow's psychic power, my body felt heavy like carrying a mountain. It turns out it's because his psychic power can't integrate with mine." He widened his eyes and suddenly realized the profound meaning. So this is the true way of using the multi-connection reverse system. It's not about connecting all psychic powers randomly, but choosing the ones that can be integrated to create the strongest psychic power. The two strode down the hallway. Liam Keen-cho glanced over and lightly patted his shoulder teasingly. "You really don't consider having a PK fight with me? You're eager, huh?" Vuong Qiu walked leisurely, chuckling lightly, and replied briefly, "No, not interested, not next time either." Lim Kien Chow continued more seriously. "According to your proposal, the Bureau is now searching for all organized crazies in the city. Do you really think the partners can control those crazies?" "Yes." Vuong Qiu's expression turned cold as he spoke slowly. "I'm not sure either, but this is the only lead we have." Stepping outside, Lim Kien Chow sighed helplessly and said, "All right, I hope your guess is right. Otherwise, just the thought of a bunch of psychics trying to control crazies is already a headache." Just then, both were startled when they saw someone signaling from the upper floor. Vuong Qiu froze in place, his eyes dazed. "Mrs. Vuong." The woman with a sorrowful face placed her hand on her chest and murmured, "Am I hallucinating? Little Huan, little Qiu, you two must be safe." Vuong Qiu hid behind a nearby building, feeling a restless surge inside, unsure how to face his mother. In the hospital room, a woman sat on the bed, the IV drip sparkling under the light. Seeing Vuong Qiu enter, Triuan Vien looked up and called loudly, "Vuong Qiu, are you done with your exam?" He smiled with concern and asked, Yes, finished. What are you drawing?" She held up the painting, eyes squinting excitedly. "It's of you." In the picture was a kid with bulging eyes and a flat mouth smiling foolishly. Vuong Qiu looked at her bewildered, excitedly asking, "How is it? Does it look just like me?" He scratched his head and responded awkwardly, "Not bad, I'm a bright future, right?" He nodded brightly and smiled. "Right, a bright future." Vuong Qiu quickly changed the subject. "Oh, right, how's your wound?" She calmly replied, "There's no problem now. At that time, Luke Hua stopped the bleeding for me, but the doctor still hasn't discharged me." On the blanket, scattered sketches were all images of Vuong Qiu with various silly expressions. He silently admired the masterpiece, his heart a mix of helplessness and amusement. Vuong Qiu was thoughtful, his eyes glancing over the phrase, "bright future," in his mind, but filled with doubt. Soon the pitch-black night covered the city. In the high-rise building, only 3 rooms had faint lights. He knocked a few times. Lim Kien Chao opened the door with a bright smile and left. Vuong Qiu stepped in and sat on the sofa. Lim Kien Chao handed him a file excitedly. "I've already investigated the partner's materials for you. Everything is here." "Yes." Vuong Qiu hesitated and quietly asked, "Can I take a look?" "There's no fee for this, right?" At that moment, the Security Bureau staff was discussing his joining. They pushed a file toward him, saying, "Of course, although this file is highly confidential, we hope you can join the Bureau. This is our sincerity." Vuong Qiu looked down at the file titled Long Rising Tide. The predecessor of the Security Bureau was Luke Com Association. "If I join for a long time, they can protect me and my family, but in return, I might lose a lot of freedom," he calculated. "If the entire city falls and the related forces leave the south, then I have a real chance to escape." After thinking for a moment, he decisively nodded. "All right, I'll join." The Security Bureau guy happily stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder like a close comrade. "That's great. I've arranged a test for you tomorrow, but don't worry, for a red level like you, it's just a walk in the park." "Yes?" Vuong Qiu faced that enthusiasm and smiled awkwardly, replying, "Wow, you're very well prepared." He laughed loudly and continued, "Joining the Security Bureau is definitely not a bad thing for you. All right, next, I will tell you about the Luke Com Association." "Yes." Vuong Qiu was startled when he heard that name. The guy's face briefly showed mild disappointment. Haven't I told you yet? The secret organization behind those people is called the Luke Com Association." Vuong Qiu seriously flipped back the file, his heart troubled. "What is this about? Isn't the Luke Cam Association a special security bureau unit? Why did it become the group that kidnapped my sister?" The guy stood up and walked toward the door, waving goodbye. The Luke Cam Association is a covert awakened organization operating internationally. They often kidnap civilians to conduct experiments related to supernatural powers. Specific cases are all documented in the file you're holding. Just then, the phone on the table vibrated the screen, showing a private number flickering in the dark. Vuong Qiu hurriedly took the phone and quickly walked to the window to answer, "Hello?" His expression suddenly turned icy cold, and he said, "What? Found them already." In Triuanvien's resting room, he listened to the information from the other end. "There's a group of fake creatures acting very strangely. We suspect someone is controlling them, but right now, I'm on a mission and can't verify." Vuong Qiu immediately responded firmly, "Send me their location. I'm heading there now." He turned to look at Triuanvien. "I have to go out for a bit. You stay at the hospital and recover." After saying that he was surprised to see Triuanvien had already changed clothes and was waving with a bright smile, "Wow, you're quick with your outfit change, huh?" she replied shortly, eyes sparkling. "I'm coming with you." Vuong Qiu forced a smile, scratched his cheek, and nodded. "All right, then." Outside the city, a heavy atmosphere hung as strange attackers rushed toward the car. Vuong Qiu and Triuanvien gripped their guns tightly. The driver spoke in a low voice. "These crazy people are very unusual. Their attacks seem to follow a certain tactical pattern with fake assaults and sneak attacks from behind." Vuong Qiu nodded and replied to the team, "We were caught off guard and suffered heavy casualties. Including me, only 3 of us survived." Then he stepped on the gas and drove straight into one of the crazies, sending him flying into the air before crashing hard to the ground. The 3 got out of the car. The driver walked behind and placed his hand on Vuong Qiu's shoulder, his tone grave. "I want to ask you two for a favor. If these crazies really have someone controlling them who is trying to kill my teammates, then you must kill him." Vuong Qiu looked at the hand on his shoulder, understood, and nodded firmly. "All right, I agree with you." At the funeral home in Than Te, a man was surrounded by crazies. From afar, a chubby guy named Bo Loi sat watching and shouted, "Hurry up and add more strength!" He smiled evilly with his red-level ability. "Just kill the 2 in front of you and I'll let you go." Suddenly, a tall figure burst out from the ground and growled, "Found a new target!" About 20 survivors gathered around. Bo Loi sneered and said, "Don't rush. This is the climax now." Then a crazy person rushed forward and bit the man's arm. Another jumped on top of him, pinning him down as painful screams echoed. Bo Loi frowned with a hint of disappointment. "What a pity we almost succeeded." The guy next to him interrupted, This time, strike fast and win fast. Convert those survivors. Don't repeat last time when clearly we could have taken everything but ended up losing it all. Not to mention some crazies let 3 of them escape. Bo Loy stood up and stepped down to the man, activating his psychic fist. The man's eyes glowed red as if losing control of himself. Bo Loy approached and placed his hand on his shoulder, smiling sinisterly. "It's okay. You're the captain. I'll follow your lead." At the same time, the radar scanner on Vuong Kyo's phone beeped, a red dot flashing to signal the target was identified. Vuong Kyo exclaimed joyfully, eyes shining brightly, "Found it!" He looked up with a radiant smile and activated his blood worship power. A bright red aura burst out, enveloping his body. Grabbing Zhao Anvian's hand, he pulled her along with a decisive voice. "Let's get started." She shouted excitedly, "Great, let's go!" Zhao Anvian kicked hard into the air, soaring high. The metal element power flashed dangerously. Vuong Kyo quickly followed behind, lifted by swirling white winds around him, gliding with the breeze away from the ground. Both hovered above the ruined city sky, the ground below shrinking like specks of dust. In another corner inside a dilapidated building, a group of survivors frantically held onto the glass door, shouting to block it, determined to stop it. Namchi pushed with all his strength in the crowd to hold back the door against the zombie horde, but suddenly another door was smashed open, shards of glass falling everywhere. 3 zombies charged in, their eyes glowing red as they scanned the living. The terrifying scene made everyone scream loudly as they poured in from the back door and quickly ran off. Namchi hurriedly pushed up his glasses, shouting, "Quick, climb up the racks!" From above, Vuong Kyo observed the scattering crowd below, calmly assigning tasks. "Tuvien, you go save people first. I'll check if any of those crazies are being controlled by someone hiding behind." Anvian grinned widely, eyes sparkling. "All right, finally it's my turn to be a superhero." Her figure vanished, diving straight down. Vuong Kyo still hovered in the air, calmly observing, pondering last time in the Liam Kian Chao underground. The radar indicated they hadn't gone far after fleeing. They stopped nearby. He guessed with sharp eyes they must have stayed to command the pseudo-creatures to delay us. Vuong Kyo thoughtfully reasoned, his gaze sharp. The power to control pseudo-creatures definitely can't be activated from afar. If these zombies are controlled, that bastard must be hiding among the pseudo-creatures. He looked back down at the building where the survivors were in chaos, hastily climbing the racks. Like those who were slow and got caught by the fierce zombies, one person screamed desperately, "No, no, please save me!" A bald old man with a deathly pale face was grabbed by a zombie at the ankle and dragged down. Voice faltering, "Save me. I beg you, save me." Namchi panicked and called the young man beside him. "Kinyim, hurry and save them." Kinyim reached out to the bald old man, shouting, "Grab my hand quickly." The old man grabbed at his hand, but suddenly pulled hard downward. Kinyim felt something was wrong, shouted, "Huh." The bald old man sneered, his voice sinister. "Sorry if you're saving people, then save them to the end." Namchi shouted worriedly, "Kinyim's been—" But Kinyim was already pulled down by the bald old man. The appearance of a living person drew the zombies below. They growled and charged. Kinyim cowered, shoulders hunched, shouting loudly, "Don't come here! Crazy ones, don't come here!" A zombie growled, swinging its clawed hand sharply at him. Suddenly, a flash of purple light appeared. A sharp iron rod shot up from the ground, piercing the zombie. Thick white smoke exploded, obscuring vision. When the smoke cleared, Trio Anvian stood firmly and gently in front of Kinyim. The zombie was pinned dead by 2 sharp iron rods. She turned back calmly, asking, "You haven't been bitten yet, right?" Kinyim hurriedly answered with a trembling voice, No, it hasn't bitten me." Zhao Anvian nodded firmly, reminding, "The second floor has been cleared. Everyone go hide on the second floor." Namchi rushed down quickly, helping Kinyim to stand up. He was grateful, voice trembling. "Thank you." Bo Loy hid among the zombies, witnessing everything, muttering angrily, "A kid with psychic powers meddling in other people's business." He stretched out his hand to activate his psychic palm, a sinister smile spreading across his lips. "The most annoying ones are those who meddle, then you'll die along with them." The zombies immediately twisted their bodies and roared, closing in step by step on Trio Anvian, who noticed them rushing as if injected with adrenaline. Trio Anvian clicked her tongue. Looking annoyed, raised her gun straight ahead, muttering, "Shooting these things is really annoying." The 2-toned-haired young woman suddenly aimed her gun at the sky and fired several shots in rapid succession, shouting excitedly, "This way is still more convenient." Bo Loi observed from afar, smirking wickedly. Here to put on a show, huh? Can warning shots into the sky scare fake creatures? But the bullets fired were not wasted. They carried hot, fiery power soaring upward, then raining down like a sudden storm, burning the zombies. Bo Loi, hiding among the zombies, was caught off guard and wounded by the firepower. He panted angrily, shouting, "Let's see if your gun can still be used like this." Wang Qiu had been waiting for the right moment, smiling slyly. "Where can you run?" "Found you!" Bo Loi panicked, hurriedly commanding 3 zombies to shield him like sandbags absorbing the attack. He gritted his teeth and growled, "Damn it, this time the loss is heavy." Not only that, the newly added zombies also suffered severe damage, he muttered irritably. Suddenly a chill ran down Bo Loi's spine, causing him to brace himself. His heart jumped and irrational fear surged. Wang Qiu swooped down from above to intercept the enemy. He landed the ground, cracking under his tremendous force. Bo Loi panicked and stepped back, screaming in horror. "Who?" Wang Qiu coldly drew his gun, his gaze sharp as a knife. Bo Loi hurriedly controlled the zombies, using them as shields to take stray bullets from Wang Qiu. He smirked arrogantly. "I thought everything was going according to plan." But Wang Qiu, with a hint of pride, smiled softly. Close, but no cigar. Just then, a heavy iron cabinet fell from the sky. Bo Loi looked up in shock, yelling, "Damn it!" Although he saw it clearly, his reflexes were not fast enough. The cabinet slammed down, knocking Bo Loi to the ground, groaning in pain. He weakly growled, "Who the hell are you?" Wang Qiu replied coldly, gun pointed threateningly. "If you want to live, tell those crazy ones under your control to fall back now." Bo Loi scratched his face, pretending to surrender with a sneer. "Okay, you've got a gun, you're the boss." He activated his power, and the zombies around made meaningless, sounds as they all retreated a good distance from Wang Qiu. Wang Qiu intently observed the zombies. Wang Vien checked around. After confirming everything was secure, she nodded in agreement. Bo Loi saw their interaction, fuming and yelling. "You and that crazy girl are from the same gang. Say whatever you want. What exactly do you want? Food from the pharmacy store or a girl?" Wang Qiu frowned, thinking silently whether he really didn't recognize her or was just stalling for time. Seeing him silent, Bo Loi laughed contemptuously. "It's not simply because of kindness that you want to save people, right?" Wang Qiu stomped down hard nearby, saying, "Why not?" Bo Loi snorted coldly. This was disdain. "No way you've awakened as a psychic too and still this naive—" Yes, Wang Qiu didn't want to argue. The gun is still aimed straight threatening. These aren't the words of someone who has a gun pointed at their head. Bo Loi isn't afraid at all. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he confidently replies, "If you wanted to kill me, you would have done it a long time ago." "You don't dare kill me!" He only commands the zombies with an even more defiant tone. "Kill me, kill me. These crazy cannibals will completely lose control. By then, you and the girl beside you will safely get out of here. But what about the normal people over there? Can you protect them?" He shouts loudly, his voice echoing as if wanting even those hiding upstairs to hear. "Even if you save them today, what use will it have afterward? This whole world is full of lunatics. Do you think you can protect them forever? Sooner or later, they will die. Your kindness won't change anything. Your choice only reassures yourself. It only makes them continue living in fear." Bo Loi suddenly laughs coldly, shouting arrogantly, "You won't save anyone. Goodbye." At that moment, from underground, a cold and threatening hand suddenly reaches up. Yes. Wang Qiu calmly grabs the hand, reaching up from the ground, smirking coldly. "Ha ha, enough yet." Bo Loi, feeling proud, suddenly falls silent, stunned as he looks at the hand tightly gripped by him. "Yes." Wang Qiu coldly glances at him with a mocking tone. "You think you're just stalling for time, don't you?" He yanks hard and pulls out a muscular man with a tan complexion. Wang Qiu shouts loudly, "I won't make the same mistake twice, Xiaovian." Suddenly, giant pillars burst from the ground, connected by iron bars to form a massive ancient arena. Wang Qiu's mutant energy activation swallows everything in the enclosed space. Nyam Li looks up in amazement, saying, "This is Wang Qiu." Wang Qiu introduces himself in a firm voice. "I call this move the Golden Arena Special. Get ready for your earth-boring ability." "How do you feel about that?" Nyam Li scoffs, replying, "If you treat me with such respect, I feel like I should be proud." He lunges forward, growling, "But I think you forgot the most important point." His fist clenches and swings straight at Wang Qiu. "How can you survive and escape alone against us?" At the same time, Bo Loi calls on 2 zombies to help him escape the iron cabinet, shouting loudly. But it can't stop the crazies outside. He smirks maliciously, worrying that with the zombies outside, that crazy girl won't be able to protect the survivors. How stupid. Boloi points at Vuong Q, activating his ability and ordering, "Go find death, kill him all." The zombies roar and rush forward. Vuong Q tilts his body to dodge Nam Lai's powerful punch. Coldly raising his gun, a bullet spirals out and pins a zombie, but it's still not enough to stop the whole horde. Watching the zombies rush in, he silently thinks that not stopping them outside is really to protect Zhao Vian and the survivors. Vuong Q fires continuous shots, the bullets tearing through the air. Despite the large number of zombies, they don't create enough pressure to stop him from thinking. But Zhao Vian is holding the death stance while watching both sides with no guarantee that nothing unexpected will happen. But his goal doesn't stop there. He lowers his head and slowly changes to a new magazine. Taking advantage of his momentary distraction, Nam Lai suddenly lunges from behind his fist full of strong energy, as if wanting to crush him. Vuong Q clenches his fist and shouts loudly, covering Vuong Q spins and throws a powerful punch to counter Nam Lai. The two fists collide, creating a terrifying force that shakes the air. Nyamli is knocked back, shouting in surprise. That bastard isn't a fire demon but controls the golden arena, yet he has such strength. Vuong Q rubs his wrist, smirking arrogantly and turning to Bo Loi. Your turn, loser who only knows how to hide behind zombies. Bo Loi angrily tears off his camouflage and roars, Nonsense, who's the loser? My ability is this strong, what do you know? His chaotic emotions trigger the system in Vuong Q's mind to alert that your relationship with Bo Loi has become extremely hostile enemies. The opportunity for binding has come. Connection is possible. Vuong Q widens his eyes, thinking, getting him angry is easier than I thought. He smiles and calculates that as long as he finds the chance to successfully link with Bo Loi, the reward will be in his hands. Without hesitation, Vuong Q charged into the crowd of zombies and two overwhelmingly powerful enemies, causing the zombies to fall and scatter after just one strike. Bo Loi crazily activated his ability and shouted loudly, rushing forward, Come on, let me kill them! Kill them all! Nyum Lee, being more clear-headed, observed the battle and vaguely noticed something unusual. He shouted a warning, Be careful, that bastard is very abnormal, don't underestimate him. But Bo Loi, as if his head was full of air, became even more bloodthirsty when his teammate reminded him, The more I want it, the more I want to turn it into my puppet. He roared and unleashed his psychic power. The zombies under his control were enhanced, entering a state where their violent strength surged dramatically. Nyam Lee looked at this scene, speechlessly, silently cursing, Why do I feel like everyone around me has a screw loose? Even so, he still joined forces with Bo Loi, slamming both arms down hard on the ground to activate his ability. No matter how strong that kid was, if he hadn't broken through the red-level range, it was still just a hand suddenly sprouting from the ground aimed straight at Vuong Q. While busy dealing with the zombies, he was startled and quickly jumped back, narrowly avoiding danger. It was too risky. But that wasn't all. Another giant hand shot up from the ground. Vuong Q murmured suspiciously, Not again. Vuong Q calmly deflected the attack, his cold eyes saying, if he couldn't dodge, he'd just take it head-on. He swung his fist and smashed the giant earth hand into pieces. Not bad, but if it weren't for my arena isolating the ground, your power would be even stronger. Nyum Lee witnessed this and became even more certain, silently thinking it was just like the kid I dragged underground last time. Power far beyond ordinary people. Just how many abilities does he have? Chivuk, yes. Vuong Q opened his palm. A blazing fire erupted with such intensity it made others shudder. Unfortunately, now you hold the home field advantage. It's me? The fire blazed fiercely, rushing forward as if to burn flesh. Bo Loi panicked and stepped back, but Nham Lai quickly slammed his hand on the ground and roared. An earthen wall rose up, blocking both of them. Perfect. The formation stands. The fire seemed like it wanted to burn the bones to ashes. Nyam Lee felt the scorching heat and carefully considered. Is he starting to panic? Looks like he's realized the battle has reached a deadlock unfavorable to him. He glanced at Bo Loi, thinking to himself, because it's a direct fight, he can't break through my armor, but Bo Loi isn't good at close combat. If that kid seizes the opportunity, he'll definitely target Bo Loi. At that moment, Vuong Q charged forward, flames enveloping his body, aiming straight at Bo Loi. Nyam Lee stood behind and shouted, When you attack my weak spot, you also expose his superpower weakness. The ground beneath Vuong Q surged up. He hurriedly leaned forward to charge, but Bo Loi dodged by, leaning aside the attack, just grazing his arm. The ground shook and a giant earthen pillar rose, aiming straight at him. Vuong Q threw a powerful punch, but only cut through the air, causing him to stagger and almost fall. Nyam Lee's men stood at a distance, smugly thinking the situation had tilted in their favor. Unexpectedly, at that very moment, the linked system panel was accidentally activated and a notification sounded in his mind. You and Bo Loy successfully linked 4. Detected Bo Loy as the person who awakened your superpower. Multifold counterattack activated. Your superpower activation is doubled. Immediately, Vuong Q felt power surge and explosion of energy. He obtained an SS-level psychic power punch, though it was still incomplete. Nyamli stood with folded arms, a smug smile spreading across his lips. Looking up, his tone full of mockery. Don't worry, I won't let you succeed easily, and your weakness is the one maintaining that arena. If he's found out about this, there's no reason for him not to attack. Suddenly, 3 giant earth rock dragons charged simultaneously toward Trio An Vien. Their sharp teeth gleamed under the light. Their red eyes roared out terrifying sounds. Trio An Vien couldn't dodge in time and hurriedly created a flimsy iron tube to block the attack. But the dragons didn't back down. They kept rushing, madly biting and tearing at her. Gritting her teeth, she formed an energy sphere around herself, desperately resisting. Nyamli raised his head and laughed loudly, his voice full of sarcasm. Maintaining a psychic power over such a large area like this must be very strenuous for a B-level, right? So just a little distraction from him and your entire battlefield will collapse. He ordered smugly, and immediately 2 giant iron bars fell from above, aimed straight at Trio An Vien. Yes, Vuong Q curled his lips into a cold smile. Although you have calculated a lot, I have already touched him, you calmly replied. Nam Li frowned, his eyes flashing with caution. He wondered what he had touched to suddenly say such words. Without delay, Nam Li withdrew his powers, causing the earth and rocks beneath Bo Loy to collapse. He clicked his tongue regretfully. It really breaks one's heart. Yet you use your comrades as bait so quickly. Nam Li frowned and growled, Cut the nonsense. So many crazies lost today later. We'll have to spend effort to replenish. His voice deepened, eyes sharp. While the area isn't sealed off yet, run out of this battlefield with your crazies. In his mind, he calculated that as long as Bo Loy left, then whether Vuong Q wanted to run or stay, he couldn't stop Bo Loy. Crossing his arms, a mocking smile appeared on his face. That's really outrageous. He waved his hand, controlling the surrounding undead with his powers. Then I have to kill all the survivors, right? Yes. Vuong Q glanced quickly and immediately saw through the opponent's plan. Troops split into 2 routes. Oh no, actually 3 routes. Smart choice. You smiled, eyes flashing with cunning. Nyamli didn't answer immediately, lunging to attack. Where are you looking? He shouted. Vuong Q raised his hand to meet the attack. 2 forces clashed fiercely, evenly matched. But Nam Li quickly noticed something unusual, his eyes wide in disbelief. Vuong Q blocked his attack with just 1 finger. What? Yes, observing Nam Li's shocked expression, Vuong Q's lips curled into a cold smile. My strength is a little stronger than when you faced me last time. Surprised? No. Without waiting for a reply, you spread your hand and easily squeezed Nam Li's fist tightly. He stared in horror and exclaimed, How is this possible? He was just a red rank after all. Vuong Q tightened his grip, kicked hard, then continuously launched a flurry of strikes. His speed was lightning fast, leaving Nam Li unable to react, only able to stand and endure each attack. His armor gradually cracked under the tremendous force. He panicked inwardly. At this attack intensity, my rock armor can't hold. Could I die here? Suddenly, Vuong Q opened his palm wide. A terrifying force burst from underground. Dozens of sharp branches sprouted up, piercing through Nam Li, turning him into a motionless porcupine. After dealing with one, Vuong Q leisurely stepped closer to Bo Loy. He panicked, stepping back with fearful eyes. How did you chase so fast? Are you hiding more strength? Vuong Q snapped his fingers, his control power immediately activating. He glanced at Bo Loy, his tone icy cold. Crazies eat. You should enjoy some too, right? Dream of being bitten. Bo Loy frantically tried to escape, but the undead suddenly lost control and turned to attack him. He screamed in horror, What's wrong with you all? Why? Why aren't you obeying my control? Bo Loy's legs trembled and buckled. He tried to use his last bit of power, desperately shouting, Stop, everyone, stop for me! But all efforts were useless. The uncontrolled zombies opened their mouths and stabbed down with sharp claws all at once. Bo Loy's groans were silenced in an instant. Vuong Q stood silently, eyes coldly observing everything. Suddenly a sharp pain struck his brain. He muttered in discomfort, such a headache. The side effect is too strong. So this power shares the same brain with the undead. He stared at his trembling hand, suspicious, wondering if this power still had defects. The Guardian King from his previous life only rose to fame after many years. Could it be because of this reason? Despite being pierced all over, Nam Li stubbornly tried to survive. He muttered weakly, Impossible, absolutely impossible. Why can you also control the crazies? How many supernatural abilities do you actually have? Wong Qiu replied coldly. You don't have the right to ask any questions now. He reached out, grabbed Nam Lai's neck tightly, pulling him up. His voice was low and icy. If you don't want to die a tragic death, then tell me everything related to that so-called Luke Kam Hoi of yours. Nyam Li didn't answer. Instead, he growled a threat in a hoarse voice. You're definitely going to die. The people behind me will never forgive you. Wong Qiu showed no disappointment, just asked coldly, Is that so? He bent down. His strong hand grasped Nam Lai's kneecap, threatening sharply. I'm curious, is your bone made of stone too? Maybe I should start with this leg first. Nyam Li, panicked eyes filled with fear. No, please, he begged. But Wong Qiu remained unmoved. His hand squeezed hard, crushing the opponent's kneecap. Nyam Li screamed in pain, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. Wong Qiu looked up coldly, his merciless gaze scanning him. So it's just normal bones after all, what about other parts? Exhausted Nam Lai gave in trembling voice. I'll tell you everything. Wong Qiu nodded with satisfaction. Then start by telling me about my sister. Where is she now? Is she alive or dead? Nyam Li whispered weakly. Your sister is not dead yet. She has passed the first stage of the experiment. Before the second stage begins, we won't let her die. Wong Qiu frowned, eyes sharp. What experiment? Nyam Li began to explain tremblingly. It's a supernatural seed experiment. The first stage is using a normal human body to nurture the supernatural seed. Your sister has now merged with the supernatural seed. He pondered a vague memory flickering in his mind. The term supernatural seed sounds familiar. Carefully, he asked, What about the second stage? Just now you said what is the second stage of the experiment. Nyam Li answered with difficulty, The second stage is to make the supernatural seed bloom and bear fruit. Wong Qiu squinted, his voice icy cold. So what happens to the person implanted with the seed? Nyam Li shivered. That person will become fertilizer for the seed. Hearing this, Wong Qiu exploded with anger. He tightened his grip on Nam Li's neck and growled. What did you say? The man cried out in pain. No, please, trembling. Nam Lai begged. Don't kill me, I'm still useful. I know where the second stage experiment is conducted. Wong Qiu released his grip cold as a blade. Hurry up and tell me. Nam Li hurriedly confessed. It's under the parking lot of Hospital Number 2. We were assigned there waiting for the right moment. Wong Qiu frowned, voice sharp. When is the right moment? Nyam Li shook his head, trembling voice. I really don't know that I just follow orders. He stared piercingly. Whose orders do you follow? Nyam Li was terrified, lips moving, but dared not speak. I can't say if I do, I'll die. Wong Qiu opened his hand. A sharp piece of metal glinted in the air, squinting, his threatening voice cold. If you don't speak, you'll still die. I guarantee you'll die a miserable death. Nearby, the Vong Sin Gia group opened their mouths, growling and starting to tear into their meal. Bo Loi suddenly woke up, eyes wide in horror, as the zombies lunged at him, ripping flesh from his body. Fear and gut-wrenching pain made him tremble. He muttered hoarsely, these guys really stink. Like then, Bo Loi's memories suddenly drifted back to painful past moments. He recalled days of bullying when cruel kids pushed his head to the ground, constantly cursing, You damn fatso, you think you're tough snitching, you got me punished by my dad. Bo Loi weakly defended, I really didn't snitch. It was the teacher who found out after calling my dad, but the bullies didn't care. They shouted even louder, Snitch all you want today, you'll have to rinse your mouth clean. That day, accused of snitching, Bo Loi was brutally beaten. When it was over, he dragged himself home, body covered in wounds, heart heavy with pain. A woman passing by saw his pitiful state and asked, What's wrong with your face? Did those kids bully you? Afraid of harsh punishment, Bo Loi hurriedly denied, No miss, I'm okay. After speaking, he ran off headlong without daring to look back or say another word. Inside, he was screaming that it was all because of her that she followed justice and caused me to be beaten. Bo Loi fled with a chaotic mind, wondering what the difference was between justice that couldn't be fully realized and those who bullied him. While running, he collided with someone else. His heavy body fell onto the pavement. Out of habit, Bo Loi tremblingly muttered an apology. The person he collided with was a beautiful woman. She smiled and extended her hand, speaking kindly. Are you okay, Bo Loi? Staring in awe at her beauty, she then gently asked, If you had strength, would you seek revenge on those who bullied you? Or would you forgive them? Bo Loi was stunned. The question made his expression blank, revenge or forgiveness. He looked at the girl, feeling she was like an angel, even more sacred than an angel. The answer had long been in his heart. He bluntly replied, I want revenge. I want to take revenge on all of them. That day, Bo Loi's life completely changed. He began to fight back, strangling those who had bullied him, using force to return all the pain he had endured until they collapsed at his feet. In a deserted alley, the bullies knelt, begging for mercy. Trembling voices from the fat kid. "Please spare us." Boloi stood there, realizing they didn't even remember his real name. Pain mixed with anger. His eyes reddened and tears welled up. He shouted with a choked voice, "You bullied me for so long, but you can't even remember my name." Suddenly enlightened, he muttered, "I suddenly realized that weakness is like the stench in the bathroom all along. It can't protect me. It was just me deceiving myself." The beautiful woman gently patted Boloi's shoulder, her warm eyes happy. "No, right." He smiled brightly and replied, "Very happy. I've never felt this way before." Then, hesitantly, his eyes sparkling, "Can I ask you something?" The woman smiled and nodded. "Of course." Reality and past intertwined like vague memories the present. Wang Chao, with cold eyes, almost asked Nam Lai behind him, "Who are you really?" Meanwhile, the past Bo Loi, with a radiant smile, asked the beautiful woman, "Who are you really?" The woman grabbed Bo Loi's shoulder. An invisible pressure made him tremble as she softly said in a low voice, "Can I tell you my name?" One word escaped in reality. Saint and Nam Lai painfully uttered the last word, Silas. Immediately his body twisted violently, eyes rolled back, blood gushed from his throat. Bo Loi, like a crazed monster, charged straight at Wang Chao. Before he could react, a black-purple cord from behind tightly wrapped his ankle, pulling him back. Zhao Yingyuan confidently controlled the cord, helping him avoid the terrifying attack from Bo Loi. His punch smashed the ground where Wang Chao had just stood into pieces. She smirked teasingly. "Too slow, as if you've been waiting a long time." Zhao Yingyuan excitedly raised her hand, summoning a powerful force surrounding Bo Loi. "I've waited until I'm starving," she shouted. Bo Loi threw another punch at her, but the black-purple cords from the power tightly bound him, stiffening his body. However, in the blink of an eye, he swung his arm powerfully to break free. Zhao Yingyuan was stunned and unable to stop him. Bo Loi seemed to be entering a growth phase, becoming stronger than ever. She muttered helplessly, "I have no control over him." Yet she and Wang Chao still coordinated smoothly, preparing to face the monster before them. Wang Chao focused the power of the flame into her arm, dazzling sparks blazing fiercely. Zhao Yingyuan concentrated her whole body, emanating a sharp purple power like a blade. The fierce flames merged with sharp purple weapons, rushing toward Bo Loi, but he stood firm, unharmed by the terrifying attack. Wang Chao was stunned, muttering, "And yet he's fine. This guy is stronger than before and after the growth phase." Bo Loi easily neutralized the attack, took a step to gain momentum, clenched a huge rock in his hand, jumped high, a terrifying smile spreading across his lips, aiming straight at the two below. The huge rock was thrown down with terrifying force. Wang Chao and Zhao Yingyuan quickly jumped to the sides, avoiding the attack. Zhao Yingyuan smiled, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Just like that bastard last time, this time I'm definitely turning you into a painting." Under her command, two long boxes large enough to hold Bo Loi's body suddenly appeared on either side of him, closing together as if to seal him inside. Thick dust rose up, obscuring the surrounding space. Wang Chao furrowed his brows and squinted, trying to see through the hazy smoke. He turned to Zhao Yingyuan with a low voice. "This time, it's just the two of us. Facing a matured pseudo-undead is a bit tough." Zhao Yingyuan nodded comfortably and replied, "Yeah." At that moment, in the system's dreamlike space, an info panel appeared displaying detailed information about Wang Chao and the supernatural abilities he had mastered. Even he was surprised by his own power, not expecting to have begun fusing practical supernatural abilities so quickly. Looking down at the sparkling lights on Wang Chao's hand, he silently analyzed Zhao Yingyuan's supernatural ability and his own 6 flames, which were proficient enough to fuse. But the Blood Branch Rage of Lian Jianzhou and the Gathering Fist he had just acquired were still not skilled enough. The 4 small glowing spots on his hand symbolized 4 powers flickering like stars. He muttered a judgment, "Maybe I can try a little experiment." At that moment, the system frame popped up again, notifying that it detected he was attempting to fuse supernatural abilities and was conducting a check. After confirming the fusion rate reached the permissible level, the system asked if he wanted to proceed with the fusion. Wang Chao intently looked at the fusion rate on the system panel, a surge of indescribable joy rising in his heart. So it really can be done. But when he saw the fusion rate was only 67%, he briefly frowned. Choosing between supernatural powers was not yet the optimal solution. With little time left, he decisively pressed the yes button on the screen without hesitation. Immediately, a strange sensation arose in his body. Sharp fragments mixed with blazing slashes burst out, accompanied by a painful scream echoing. The 4 fragments gradually merged to form a giant entity glowing bright red. The system immediately announced fusion success. You have obtained an SSS-level Fire Flame ability, and your pseudo-creature upgraded to Mountain Fire rank. Behind Wang Chao, a giant warrior appeared proudly clad in blazing armor, fierce flames radiating overwhelming momentum. After unleashing his full power, he panted, leaning on his knee, muttering, "So this means it really worked." Still amazed by the new supernatural ability, Wang Chao glanced at the giant entity beside him. A strange feeling rose as if there was more than one body. In the distance, Zhao Yingyuan struggled to maintain the containment box imprisoning Bole, preventing him from escaping. Wang Chao shouted loudly, "Xiao Yan, get out of the way!" He took a stance ready to confront the monster hand to hand. Zhao Yingyuan grinned mischievously and replied, "I've been waiting for you for a long time." As Wang Chao turned and threw a punch, the giant warrior behind him also swung a blazing fist directly at Bole. The terrifying blow sent him flying into the air, creating a fierce explosion. The ground and rocks in front of Wang Chao shattered dust thick in the air. He silently marveled at the destructive force reaching Mountain Fire rank. No wonder it was an SSS-level supernatural ability. Bole struggled to stand, his body trembling and smoking as if just scorched. Wang Chao clenched his flaming hand tightly, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Too strong Bole, in his pseudo-undead form, roared angrily, his voice full of rage at possessing a new power. Wang Chao showed no fear toward anyone, curling his lips into a confident smile. Indeed, this was the true way to link multiple supernatural abilities in a reflective fusion. A punch blazing like hellfire was thrown along with the determined shout of the giant warrior behind him. At the same time, he swung his fist, creating a devastating strike. Bole couldn't block it, and only absorbed the blow, being flung far and smashing hard into a nearby pillar. A loud boom shook the entire space. He squinted in disbelief at what was happening, grinding his teeth as he struggled to stand. Seeing Bole still stubbornly resisting, Wang Chao spread his arms wide and unleashed the warrior's move. Behind him, 2 fierce spinning fireballs were also launched. "If you've become a pseudo-undead, then you might as well go die." Following his command, the 2 hellfire-like blazing spheres hurtled straight toward Bole. Helpless, he could only stand still and take the full brunt of the attack. His entire body was engulfed in a sea of flames. The fire flared fiercely and then gradually dispersed. Through the drifting smoke, as the dust settled, Bole's battered body was revealed with a few embers still slowly burning parts of his flesh. Wang Chao looked at him and slightly curled his lips as if appreciating the resilience. Wow, still didn't burn to death. From above, Zhao Yingyuan grinned mischievously, swooping down with a volley of sharp weapons like gigantic nails toward me. Then she shouted. Bole arched his body. From his arms and back sprouted numerous long, thick bone segments like shields. But Zhao Yingyuan did not hesitate at all. Gathering all her determination, she clenched a sharp nail tightly, took a swing, and threw it forcefully. Following were sharp spears flying swiftly forward. The strike caused a shocking explosion, smoke and fire bursting across the sky. That very attack pinned Father Loi to the pillar behind, sending him to the heavens in the most tragic way possible. His whole body was bruised, bones breaking one after another like falling leaves. Even Vung Qiu looked at Triwan Vian with admiration, silently marveling at her strength and determination. Triwan Vian seemed to suddenly become stronger than ever before. She raised both hands high, a proud smile shining brightly on her lips. Vung Qiu helplessly scratched her head and muttered that just because of competition, she broke through to the pink star level. Triwang Vian skillfully controlled the fake undead creature before her with her power. But full of joy, she wore a satisfied smile. Fortunately, the drawing was preserved. Even in her excitement, she climbed onto Father Loi's shoulders, making Vung Qiu only shake her head in dismay. Her brain is way too complicated to understand. The giant fighter behind him, after completing his mission, gradually faded into the air, leaving flickering sparks behind. But defeating Father Loi didn't mean the battle was over. Vung Qiu glanced at the fake undead creatures swirling around, a smirk forming on her lips. Next, let's deal with these guys. Suddenly, a loud alarm bell blared, tearing through the space. Vung Qiu immediately recognized the emergency situation. City, fallen alert. Trio An Vian was stunned and exclaimed, "Huh,